Alright. Alright, people. Alright. Whew. Inna alhamdulillahi wa kafah. والصلاة والسلام على رسوله المصطفى وعلى عباده الذين ارتضى ومن بهداهم اهتدى وبآثار أهل المدينة اقتفى وبعد فسلام الله على القوم أهلا وسهلا بكم ومرحبا Juanying Leute, bienvenidos a todos. Bakher Ragle, Khushamadid, and as always, Swagatam, Swagatam. So, people, let me just bring up the chat because I don't even know if you guys can hear me right now. Ooh, whoa. Right. So, Rat, what is going on, Rat? All right, people. All right. Whiz. Yeah. चलो drink shrink सामने रखते हैं. Let's. I take it you can all hear me. Whoa. All right. Super chats rolling in. Khurram, you're doing it with the super chat. You're doing it. One moment. I'm just gonna open up the super chats. I've got a. Right. Bismillah. First of all, I take it you can all hear me. Yep, loud and clear. Cool. Excellent. Let me just bring this a little closer. Open this. Bring that up. All right. Now, what's going on? What's going on, people? Shout out to Ibn Ludrik, please. People are coming here just for their shout outs. Ye ho kya raha hai? What is going on, people? What is going on? Let me just check on the Facebook people as well. For some reason, their chats are not coming up. So, all right, Frowdy Frobbery, you're doing it. Ayub, you're doing it. You're doing it. Clay, shukran. All right, so, Amy, all right, love from New York. Geo. Right, so, look at that, Shadman. Anissa, all right. So, what is going on, people? Quite a few things to take a look at today. Unlike last week, I'm going to try and get into it a bit quicker. So I realize what happens. You know what my problem is? I get carried away talking. Story of my life, people. Story of my life. So, right. Well, first of all, those of you that haven't watched the last Mind Trap, let me just bring it up there. You can see that there. That's right there with Dr. Celine Ibrahim, episode 53, people. All right. You're doing it. So, other than that, shall we begin with a poem as always? Set the mood, huh? Set the mood, people. Set the mood. Oh, actually, yeah, go on then. What the heck now, people? What the heck now, ala ishi. There you go.
अदब वाले की जानिब से
Wow, this is going out to all of you. I totally love this channel, you know. Adab wale.
दिन एक सितम रात करो
हो क्या बात करो हो
वो दोस्त हो दुश्मन को भी तुम मात करो हो मेरे ही लहू पर गुजरो कात करो हो मुझसे ही अमीरों की तरह बात करो हो मुझसे ही अमीरों की तरह बात करो हो हम खाक नशी तुम सुखाना राय सरे बाम हम खाक नशी तुम सुखाना राय सरे बाम पास आके मिलो दूर से क्या बात करो हो पास आके मिलो दूर से क्या बात करो हो
क्या बात है!
हमको जो मिला है वो तुम्ही से तो मिला है।
वाह! वाह!
हमको जो मिला है वो तुम्ही से तो मिला है।
तुम्हीं से।
हम और भुला दें तुम्हें, क्या बात करो हो।
क्या बात करो!
हम और भुला दें तुम्हें, क्या
हम और
बात करो
भुला दें
हो।
तुम्हें।
दामन पे कोई छीन न खंजर पे कोई दाग। दामन पे कोई छीन न खंजर पे कोई दाग। तुम कत्ल करो हो कि करामात करो हो।
वाह!
हैं? तुम कत्ल करो हो कि करामात करो हो।
कत्ल के करामात।
बकने भी दो आजिज को, जो बोले है बके है।
बकने भी दो।
दीवाना है, दीवाने से क्या बात करो हो।
वाह! वाह, 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 वाह!
दिन
दीवाना है, दीवाने से क्या बात करो। People, well, what else has been going on? Well, in the UK, huge news. I mean, one, in addition to lockdown slightly easing up, we've had the shocking case of Sarah Everard and her brutal murder at the hands of a police officer. It's really been a terrifying shock, I think, for everyone. And it's got a lot of people thinking that how the hell and what the hell actually happened. And obviously, it, the whole, the uncovering of this coinciding with International Women's Day and or Women's Week and that kind of just emphasizing how unsafe women are. I think it's been very. I don't know if you guys have been following it really, and I personally feel that. I mean, I'm curious when they'll release the details, but I feel that she because I'm trying to figure out the story in my. I don't know if you guys have been, staying up to date with it, but she leaves some friend's apartment or something and sets off in the evening. And I think it's like I think she what like 20 minutes or 30 minutes from home or something, and she's walking and she's picked up on all these cameras, and it's amazing when they put the effort in. They catch her on bus cameras, this camera, or an actual police car goes past and the camera catches her, and all this footage has been retrieved. And then at some point she's picked up by this officer who is, he's a he's like a firearm response officer and also in charge, I believe, of or at least in a reasonably privileged position dealing with parliamentary diplomacy and stuff like that. So he's not just your average kind of cop, and he takes her away, and God knows where or how, but then he murders her and ditches her body, and I've got a feeling that a lot of that was only facilitated because of him being a cop. I mean, maybe he offered to drop her off, or I don't know. I'm just a couple of us have been chatting about this and just trying to figure out. Wonder what had happened. And yeah, I definitely feel that maybe he approaches her as an officer, and because it's COVID and offers to drop her off or something, and that's how it kind of begins. But this guy was under investigation already, and the cops were just turning a blind eye. But it just goes to show. And then there was a vigil for her, and the cops turn up and try to manhandle, and because of COVID, and it's shocking, because somebody had released. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but there's this viral video going around on WhatsApp where somebody is recording using a camera. So they just got maybe their phone or something, but they're just flicking through a book which seems to be a register for officers that have been sentenced for some kind of inappropriate or gross misconduct or whatever it is, but they've been sentenced. And you go through, and the person's kind of flicking through it, and he's recording it, and the amount of sexual offenses are shocking, shocking. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's going viral on WhatsApp groups and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it is. I think it kind of it it awakens that conscientious spirit in people that the police are meant to be there for to protect. And what on earth is going on here? But may Allah make things easy. May He keep people safe. May He keep women safe. Um, and I think, yeah, in some ways, some of the topics we're going to look at today, not from that perspective related to this, but still about safety. There are certain things about safety to do with women, young children. I'll take a little look at that today. There's a discussion, a very so I'm just going to put a disclaimer, people. Tonight's session may be a bit dark. Okay, so it is going to cover elements of, there's this discussion I was having with an Australian imam, and where he was justifying underage marriages. I'd be covering a bit of that. I will also be looking at uh, Sita and Gita, the new Avengers, have done a video against me. So I'll be taking a look at that, responding to it. But in light of that, since some of the allegations they raise at me for being Qadiani and stuff, and it's quite interesting, well, actually, that's an interesting allegation because it's actually the Deobandi elders that have opened up a huge discussion on that, and we'll take a look at that. People like Maulana Qasim Nanotvi Sahib and his fatwa we'll look at, which was used by the Qadianis to say, because he says in it that there's no the prophet doesn't have to be the final prophet. There can be other prophets after him, but they don't abrogate his sharia. That's his and we'll take a look at that. But in addition to that, lining up with these whole, I spoke last week, I mentioned Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi. So we're going to look at some bizarre rulings that these people have had and practices, and some shocking, disturbing stuff about that is, of a very perverse nature. So if this kind of stuff heavily disturbs you, just hearing it, then you might want to sit this one out. Because there's some, unfortunately, I mean, it's not a laughing matter, but there's some very disturbing stuff. Along the way, we'll have some fun and games as well, of course, discussing some of Rashid Ahmed Gangoi's stuff as well, and Maulana Rashid Ahmed Gangohi, and a bit of the bromance as well. And we'll take a look at all of that, man. So, what else is there, people? Oh, Sheikh Yasser Qadi Sahib. We're going to carry on with a bit of disclosure with Big D. That what on earth is Sheikh Yasser Qadi Sahib up to? Um, that's important as well. So we will be taking a look at that. Cool, people. Let me just bring this up. All right. I'm just aligning this as well. That's good. All right. Awesome. Awesome. Cool. So now let's take a look at some questions that you guys have sent in. All right. So, people. I'm just going back to find this, uh, the super chats. Whoa. Hell of a lot of super chats have come through. People, you guys are doing it. You're doing Gio. Right. So, um, wow, there's so many. I feel, यार क्या हो रहा है? शर्मिंदा कर देते हो यार. That many super chats. Oof. You guys are doing it. You're doing it, honestly. Much love to all of you. I've got to go right back to. Whoa, what the hell? This is going to take the entire show. Ah, okay, now we're at the. Okay, so. Uh, Azarati, you're doing it, man, with the super chat. Much love. No man is an island. Super chatted. They turned God's religion into their dad's deen. Ironic because Islam came to turn people away from their ancestors' practices. Exactly. Exactly. Um, totally agree. Mr. Hung, you're doing it. You're doing it. Much love for the super chat. Right. So, Allah sent Quran to the Prophet. Before he came with one Sharia, he revealed Tawheed and Shirk. First, is this a sign for reverts to ease into the deen and learn Tawheed? First, basically, someone who isn't before you can truly submit. A very good question. I would agree that, look, I would say it's not only for reverts, but of course, La Siyama, especially for reverts, but for any person who suddenly or who develops a passion to reconnect with the deen, I would say, look, you know, of course, go right in, but take if you need to take your time, take your time. Okay, that take khudhu min ad-din ma tutiqun. That which you are capable of taking. That is the hadith. That sometimes you have to saddidu wa qaribu. You have to kind of like take, you have to ease your pace. And that's all good. There are narrations that a person came to the Prophet that he could only pray one prayer a day. And the Prophet said, well, so be it. And these, I feel that this perspective truly demonstrates the natural, the very comforting side of Islam. So, yes, of course. Thoughts on Ibn Taymiyyah's Dar al-Ta'arud. Yeah, so basically, Ibn Taymiyyah is refuting people like, namely, Fakhruddin al-Razi, but other people as well, I guess, Dimnan, if you like, implicitly. He's trying to say, well, what comes first, the aql or the naql? So, what comes first? Is it scripture or is it intellect? This really is, a mishandling of an entire discourse by Ibn Taymiyyah. And many people after him have only been influenced by him, wrongly so. You see, really, this question is a false dichotomy. There is no, clash in that sense. You only understand the world through your sense of self and reasoning. So to say, well, which comes first, the world or your sense of self? I mean, it doesn't. It's stupid. It's somebody who doesn't have a good grasp of how human beings work. So Ibn Taymiyyah has presented a false dichotomy and thereby, I mean, I'm sure sincerely misled. Those are the worst kind. Those who sincerely mislead. So yeah, and I've said about Ibn Taymiyyah before, look, he he he's a great guy, he's a great guy. As Sitar Gita, our beloved I'm going to speak about them shortly. Usman. As he says in his other clip. Why I'm saying this is I can't. I was I played that other video in front of someone. We are just watching a bit, and he said this in it, and the other person just couldn't stop. He was asking me, is he a freshie? He said, is this guy fresh off from Pakistan? So I said, no. I said he's born and raised in Bradford. So he said, well, he said, I don't get it. He said, why is grammar like that? That doesn't. How does he not know grammar? Because he said, why would he be saying something like, why I'm saying this? Why I'm saying this is why I'm sitting here is to teach. Okay, so yeah, so it's shocking. Yeah. Anyway, why I'm saying this is because Ibn Taymiyyah, he had mental health issues, but he was a good guy. He has some really amazing works as well. Works more like rulings, some breakthrough rulings. Okay, let's move on. Mufti, is Islam really the fastest growing religion? I'm sure I've covered. Is this mixing this up with the previous weeks? Ah, I think it is. Let me skip through some of these. I think it is. It's showing them up as they just been sent here a couple of minutes ago, but I'm sure I've answered these previously. Look, Ijma, going on a journey with the 5G heroic dose of psilocybin soon. Pray for me. Alright, psilocybin people, psychonauts, and you see, I do feel that this is a portal to understanding consciousness. Yeah, it's not for everyone, but the path is for those who take it. Allah. Suluk, people. This is the new age suluk. The salik, the one who takes the path. The maslak. That's what the maslak is. Um let me right. Yep, I definitely did answer these. Um yep, I definitely did. Is psychedelics like LSD and DMT haram? Of course, they're not haram. I have a very detailed video explaining that. Do check it out. Um, right, I'm just trying to catch up with questions today, just moving through them. Are there hadith prophesizing the rise of Ottomans? Let me guess. Discovered by the Ottomans? This is how hadith are fabricated. Look, just think about it. The Prophet was not going to be speaking in the Arabian Peninsula about people so far out. It was just not the style. If that was to be the style, you would have seen it in the Quran as well. The Prophet didn't speak about things like China and India, and these are all fabricated hadith. That this is what will happen in India, and this is what will happen there. And, like, don't get me wrong, sometimes they can be nice and comforting for people, but they were really fabricated for a particular cause. The Indian ones are usually fabricated to aid Bani Umayyah in their conquests of India. But yeah, I'm just moving through some of these. Um, right, I don't know why it's done this today. It's not really done this before. Mix these up like that. Right, well, that's at least that's on the bright side. That means I'll be able to get through them. Um, did I? Salam Mufti, don't mean to kill the mood, but my uncle had a stroke. and the chances aren't good whatsoever. The family's deciding whether they should pull the plug or not. What are your thoughts? I mean, may Allah make things easy for your entire family, for your uncle. You see, it's a difficult one because you see, you don't want to give up, but on the same token, you don't want to make someone suffer just because you can't handle their absence. I think you have to go with the doctors, the professionals. You take their advice. If they tell you that, look, that really we can keep them alive, as in the organs are beating and they're breathing, but, the person isn't there, then yeah. Or maybe sometimes what some people do is the doctors say that so they keep them for a couple of days and see. Nothing really happens. And then they just pull the plug, I guess. If your life has come to an end like that, like there's no real life, you're just being kept alive, then I think, in many ways it's better to just let someone go peacefully because, this is a pretense of just keeping them. May Allah make things easy. It's a very difficult decision. Khurram Liaqat, daughter got brain cancer. May Allah make things easy for you, for your daughter. May Allah grant her shifa. Ameen. It's very sad to hear these things. Uh, Wedding was booked and the boy left after the diagnosis. Ya salam. That's very. Why did Allah bring this boy in our life, knowing he would break our heart? Was it not enough she got cancer? Also, people blame magic, nazar. True. Khuram Liaqat, I'm very sorry to hear about this. Honestly, I don't have the words. I don't have the words. May Allah make things easy. I don't know what the diagnosis is. I hope and pray that, may Allah grant her shifa. May she make a complete recovery, a swift recovery. Ameen. I think, yeah, you see, what the boy did, you see, what I would say, what I would advise is, you see, don't allow that action to kind of pull you down further. People, I guess, in their worldview, they are seeing, oh my God, that, what am I doing here? And they've just out of cowardice have just gone and thought, well, let's not get into this. It is true what they could have done would have been, a great loving act of um, not only bravery but humanity. But they chose cowardice, I guess. But people are like that. You see, people are like that. So, what I would say is don't let that consume you. Don't let other people cast their actions or allow their actions to cast a shadow over your life. Chalo, if the person has gone, he's gone. Good riddance. Look at what you have right in front of you, and and just ho- hold on to the very bond of family that you guys have. And may Allah bless you guys, make it easy, man. We all, inshallah, everybody who watches this clip, may they make dua. Okay. It's a very tragic thing to hear. No man is an island. Yep, I read yours. Icy Saracen. Mufti, is Islam really the fastest growing religion? Um, mm, is this? I'm sure I've just read this already. How is this going? Is this going backwards? I don't get this. I I've already answered all these questions. Hmm. Mufti, you do, and there's only one solution to Ata ibn Mayna. Oh no, these are old. What is going on here? I think this thing has really the software seems to be playing all of these. Deepest or saddest poem of John Elia. John Elia, a lot of his poetry is very melancholic. A lot of it is. But I don't know, it's weirdly comforting. Weirdly. I found honestly that Sagar poem I read as well. I found it quite very soul stirring. I did read it the other time that um हजारों फूल खिले अपना कारवां ना रुका, that despite thousands of flowers blossoming around us, but apna caravan, our caravan did not stop. Dilon pe daag liye hum chaman se guzre. I found that very, it just hit me differently. I don't, yeah, it's strange, Sometimes you read a poem and it just, bang. I read one of Mir's the other day and it really, Mir has this sensual kind of like, not sensual in a, yes, this sensual, I guess, not sexual, but sensual, very natural and organic kind of style. But it's so, I read this poem of his where he says, Kabu. Obviously, they used to say Kabu instead of Kabi sometimes. Like that was their, their dialect. They wouldn't say Kabu, Kabi. They would say Kabu. Kabu udar gayi e sabah, to use kahiyo ke bewafa. This stanza, yeah, this line of this couplet of his, that he's talking to the wind. That imagine the wind could go there and could go to someone and say something on your behalf. He says, "Kabu udar gayi o sabah, to use kahiyo ke bewafa. Magar ek mir shikasta pa, tere baag e taza mein khar." Hi, 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 hi. Oof, honestly, wow, that just like really, really just broke the dagger in. You see, what he's saying is that if the wind, like he's saying, is Sabah, Sabah is the wind, the morning breeze. Says, if you ever go there, use kahiyo, what message, say something. And what is it he wants the wind to say? Say bewafa. Just say to her that disloyal, that you're not loyal. Wow, what a message. He says that, but then his second line is what actually kills it. He says, Magar ek mir shikasta pa. That, but however, a mir, who's him, shikasta pa, and shikasta means broken, and he's broken down on foot. But it comes out as though his foot is broken. He is kind of like he can't walk any further. He can't do it. Shikasta pa. And then he contrasts it with your fresh flower garden, he says this one Mir who is in this fresh flower garden, but he's so defeated. He's in this, he happens to be just a thorn in this amazing garden of yours. Is it like that? मगर एक मीर शिकस्ता पा तेरे बाग ताजा में खार था. Khar is a thorn. I was thinking it would be interesting as well. Sometimes khar is used, I suppose, more colloquially, but it is used in certain places to mean ruined as well. And I thought that would fit very eloquently as well. But yeah, you see, sometimes these poems just, they really do hit you. Um, Sam Teller, what can we do quickly to rid the world of Wahhabis and Salafi incels? This is the problem, innit, Wahhabio? These people have, they've infested. It's, you know what it is? It's something in the mind. I don't think we can get rid of them, but I feel what we need to do is have a voice that at least speaks, that counters what they state. Mufti, does Islam allow the preservation and autopsy of a Muslim who has fallen to foul play? Preservation and autopsy. The autopsy and preservation, of course, of course. I take it, I'm not sure what exactly you mean by preservation here. But yeah, of course. I mean, autopsy, I take it you mean in some kind of medical intervention to maybe preserve the body to examine it. Then yes, of course. Doggy Doggy has liked. Doggy Doggy. What this one? All right, Amazon, you're doing it. You're doing. What is Salatul Istisqa? How does it work? Can we just pray and make the desert green? No, my friend, you cannot just make the desert green. Okay, so um, ir Salatul Istisqa is a prayer that is established as a collective for a community praying for rain. I mean, people in those particular countries do it. What it does is it allows the people to do something. Look, really, it's not that the prayer is going to make it rain. Okay, obviously, whether Allah, you know, allows that somehow, um, suddenly at times, in spite of what the weather forecast has said, it rains. So yeah, these things could happen. But what it also allows people to do is, in such times of difficulty, come together in a community spirit and to do something that they feel is metaphysical and spiritual. And thereby it kind of offers a resilience as well. And maybe because the world of, you know, weather and this, it works in a way that, um, although it is calculated, but because a subtle thing can change, like the butterfly effect, a sudden kind of current can completely alternate the course of action that would have unfolded in a particular part of the world. So it could be that, Allah does operate in His creation, but I always give the analogy of the quantum world that it collapses upon observation. So it could happen in a way that obviously you can't see the direct cause and effect. But yeah, that's in my understanding. But no, you can't just go to a desert and start praying and it'll turn in, green and things it won't. Mufti, what do you think? Haris Sultan. Ayo, ayo. Marhaban, right? So, what do you think of the Aurat March in Pakistan, Mufti? Shukran for the super chat, Haris G. Um, you see, the the Aurat March, yeah, look, I'm all for women's rights. I do feel sometimes some of the things are unnecessarily provocative, which are just, I feel, this is my take, and people can disagree. I feel what it does is it creates more um, stumbling blocks than it does, and more hurdles than it does in attaining goalposts and destinations or covering milestones. I feel that, you see, sometimes some of the slogans some women will carry and things like that, it triggers. It's very triggering language. And I feel that, look, I don't know. I feel that the priority is sorting out the rights. It's not about just triggering people, you see, because you're just creating more of a fight. Like the situation is already very handicapped. So why create more resentment? So if they slogan, like let's say the sloganeering was for things like, they should be education is a right, this is a right, this is a right, no domestic violence, no control, no this, no that. I think that's brilliant, and I fully support that. The other kind of provocative statements that they make, I just feel that culture, you see, you have to take into consideration your surroundings. People there are very rural. The majority of Pakistan is a rural country. To say, I don't know, just, women that certain people will put all these slogans that are very kind of like, they appear anti men. That's what they appear. And they just appear like taking digs, like, you know, warm your own bed. I'm not here, like, see to your own sexual, like it'll just be, heat your own food. And it's not that I'm saying that these things are necessarily wrong, but I just feel that this opportunity isn't about that. It's about much greater things. And you see, by saying these kind of like they'll say things like certain things that they know are going to trigger an entire, a mob, then they're gonna make life 10 times more difficult for them. So I don't know. That's my thoughts on it. Yeah, but people may disagree. I think um there was some backlash in Pakistan again about the Aurat March. Right. So Nikah John O a super chatted. You're doing it. Nikah provisions and protections for sacks, for the sacks people, and protection. How should this be applied in modern context where provisions cost an entire single income? You see, these things are done bil urf in society. What, like, for example, when a person is, let's say, in England, what how does a husband take care of his wife, let's say? What kind of financial responsibilities does he have? Now, I would say it depends on who is getting married. See, I'm old school, so बुढ़िया गया हूँ यार. I've reached old age now. So, you see, to me, I'm kind of like, I still feel that a man should always bear the responsibilities, and it's his responsibility to make sure that, and it may be hard at times, I get that, but for the most part it's his responsibility to be, providing a roof over the head, to be making sure there's food on the table, to be making sure, that kind of security, assurity, protection. I'm old school like that, so I would feel that even if a woman had her money, I mean, sure, she can spend it as well. Like, let's say she wants to buy furniture, or she wants to buy shopping or something. That's all good, and I'm sure that's very helpful. But really, I would see it as they are his responsibilities: the bills, the mortgage, the whatever it is. But I get that most people don't think like me now. This is, I feel we're this kind of thinking is an extinct breed now. I feel in this part of the world. So we're like a rare species. So I think nowadays men and women, younger, especially the younger generation, especially um, millennials, the younger end of millennials and Gen Z and all of these kind of people, they feel that, no, everybody should go in 50-50, and fine, if that's because that's their mindset. You see, it comes down to the person who's embarking on the relationship. If that person, if they have an agreement, then that's all good. If a person feels that, look, let's do it like this. If a woman says, "Look, you know what? I don't want no money. I've got my own place. I've got this. I'm doing that. I don't want no contributions. I'm just interested in companionship." Cool. I mean, it's whatever people amongst them understand, because it's their relationship. So it's their say. So if a person is struggling, like John O, you've asked, then in that case, um, they would have to discuss this. That okay, so unless he's old school and he's thinking, well, look, I'm going to handle it all anyway. But if he can't handle it, then he's got to say it. I think, yeah, that's what I would say. Shamaz Lila, Salam Mufti. I heard in the time of Omar, slave girls would walk around topless. Is this true? I really doubt that's true, but I really doubt that. Um, I think some people had put some narrations. Ibn Hazm slammed all of this. I don't buy that. Because look, men on men. It doesn't matter. Social status or whatever, you know, whatever people are going to say, black, white, green, God knows, glow in the dark, luminous, luminescent, whatever, blue or whatever it is, men on men. So if they were just wandering around seeing women topless, I really doubt it that they. It's like you get some of these um, recent. There'll be activists, and women will say that, right? I demand that we take back ownership of our body, and women should all go topless for a day or for a week, and men will just be I don't know if you guys have seen the clips. And the people commenting on it, and the guys will just be like, I support her. I support that woman. Women, listen up. A bit Siko, learn human rights, take back ownership. Yeah. All right, so Mufti, YouTuber coach Red Pill said men should not marry damaged women, women with past trouble, because these women drag men down. Is this true? That sounds a bit of a toxic question, man. Um, Look, not just women, men are damaged as well. Everybody can be damaged. I would say, look, it's not about a gender or about a category, it's a person. If somebody you feel that you can't handle that person for whatever reason, then don't embark on that relationship. If you feel that, look, you get grumpy men in society, and you do get, you get bitter women as well. You do get that as well. So, but it doesn't mean that everybody's going to be like that. And it doesn't mean because somebody has had a few relationships that have gone pear shaped that they are necessarily toxic people. It could just be that, just life it just didn't work that way. So I would say, look, assess your own life. If you can't handle it, don't embark on it. Nobody's forcing you to embark on it. But I wouldn't put it down to a whole genre of saying damaged women. That's just taking the mic. Because I feel that, look, there because if you can look on the men's side, there's a huge, this whole roadman culture. It's crazy, like there's so much immaturity amongst men. Just being honest, so much. So yeah, all right. What is going on? I take it Salam Mufti, what are good countries in which to study Quran and Maliki fiqh? The country you're living in. You know, you don't, honestly, I genuinely do feel that these countries we live in are amazing. I mean, to me, the UK, England, namely, is home. You know, I have lived in other parts of the world. I have visited a few countries. I mean, reasonable amount. I mean, I'm not, maybe some people have been to many more, but I've been to a few as well. And I've lived for several years of my life in other countries. And a person can adapt anywhere, but really, this is home where you're born and raised and you've grown up and you understand. And then the liberties here and the rights and things like this that we take as a given, you really realize when they're not there. So I would say that that's this for me it would be the UK. Mufti, is it possible that the Quran was revealed in Urdu? No, it's not possible, my friend. The Quran was not revealed in Urdu. All right, so what is going on? Somebody said Egypt is a progressive country with good opportunities to study. Yeah, I mean, Egypt is I mean, look, there's many great countries. But my point is that, look, don't feel you need, don't, don't feel pressured that you need to make hijrah, that I need to kind of, you know, emigrate from these countries and migrate to um, some Muslim country, which is Jannatin Tajri min Tahti al Anhar, this land of river and milk and honey and doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. And how you'll be shocked how Islamic these countries in the West are by their ethics, not by their theology, but by their ethics. You'll be surprised. Right. I see you're a controversial figure. Am I an agent? Saleh. See, this is what happens. This is Mufti. Who's your favorite beloved? Beloved. We've got so many beloveds. Right. In Egypt, they kidnap people, though. Is that a reference to my kidnapping when I got kidnapped? Right. So, all right. I tell you what, we've answered quite a few questions already. Um, what were the reasons people were divorcing in the Prophet's time? Did the Prophet deal? What did the Prophet deal with when divorcing couples? Look, the Prophet did not micromanage people. You'll be surprised to know, unlike the mullahs and mulvis and the clergy of today, the Prophet was not involved in people's lives. People just did. People married. The Prophet didn't know they got married. They would tell the Prophet afterwards. Even reasonably close companions of the Prophet would find out afterwards. Oh, he got married. And divorce as well. They never always told the Prophet. The Prophet would find out afterwards. People divorced over what people divorce over. Disagreements, falling out. But you see, to the Arabs back then, the Arabs saw divorce as something quite natural and marriage. So divorce was not a taboo. So if they did divorce, they would easily remarry. Society wasn't like, oh my God, she's a divorcee, we can't marry her. So yeah, a bit like almost Mauritania today. Yeah, yeah. So how in Mauritania, women, ironically, the more divorces they've had, the more kind of cred, nikah cred they have. So that, more people are desiring to marry them, and they have more of a desirability and appeal is a better word, more of an appeal in society. And so you'll have women who have been divorced, and that's an Arabic, very traditional, super traditional. It's mostly a desert Muslim country. And, you'll have women who've been divorced like 20 times, 10 times, a dozen times, and it's standard. It's like they don't see anything. In fact, they see it as, yeah, that's great. It's amazing, isn't it? You've got that, and then you've got places in you go to the east, like I don't know, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, where divorce is seen as toba, toba, toba. That woman is now like a chut, you can't touch her, and she's like untouchable, and like the old Hindu practices. So, right, somebody said, Karima said, even in Sudan, Mufti. All right, there you go. See, what's it? And that's a resemblance is both al-Maliki, Mauritania and Sudan. I wonder if that had some influence. Um, yep, people who don't be spamming. Right, so what is going on? People, let's take a look at some of the. We've got to look at a few of. Got a few things to take a look at. So let
Abu
me
Layth,
just see if I can
please.
bring up. We will
A lot
also
more
be looking
serious,
at.
a lot more dangerous.
You
This
see
is a little later
the
on.
Dajjal,
Yeah.
yeah, and the Dajjal, how they operate is. So basically, for him, he needs to update his
The
aqidah.
Jajila. we're gonna come to that, but I think maybe let's deal with the Sheikh Yasser Qadi thing before today. How does that sound? I think that might be. Mhm.
Huh? I am
Ah,
Salafi.
I am Salafi. So, oh right, actually, people, what I want to deal with, I did say, first of all, covering a conversation that I did have with
Huh?
an
I
Australian
am
imam.
Salafi. And I don't.
Right now, right, I'm opening the wrong one here. Right, okay, here it is. Okay, so, mhm. So people, um, bit of a slightly dark undertone, unfortunately. But I had a discussion with an Australian imam. He um, he got in touch with me following. He got in touch with me following my last week's back and forth with the the village Mulvis from Bradford, Sita and Gita. And so he himself, he's also a Deobandi. He's from Australia, and he had studied in Jamia Benuria. Now, to be fair, we never really used to get on there either. But he's not been in touch for several years now. But he got in touch and said, "Hey, Mufti." Oh no, sorry, he doesn't call me Mufti. He said, "Hey, I hear that a lot of people are refuting you and blah blah blah." So anyway, we ended up having this call, and I was really shocked because the conversation kind of jumped over loads of topics, and oh well, he started asking me, and he's an imam there. His name is Shakib, Sheikh Shakib, or Molana Shakib. And he started talking about different things, and oh, Mufti. Oh, sorry, you won't call me Mufti, but you are a great fitna for people. So I said, well, why? Why am I a fitna? Well, you challenge miracles. I said, well, what do I challenge? And he said, well, you give natural explanations for them. I thought, okay, I don't know why that's such a big fitna, but and he said, well, this is really damaging to people's iman and blah blah blah, and what would the teachers back in Pakistan think about you? I said, well, why don't you ask them? I said, look, seriously, why don't you just ask them? And he said, well, he's not in touch with them. I said, well, I've been in touch with them. As far as I know, they're very respectful towards me. So, um, and I think that kind of may have triggered him a bit as well, because he was like, nah, they wouldn't. I said, well, I went there a couple of years ago, and I said they were very respectful. I said, in fact, the people like Mufti Farhan and Mufti, the who's now, I think, the VP to the entire madrasa, the son of Mufti Naeem. I said he came here, specifically asked for me. I had to go down, met him, and you know, um, really keen on networking and telling me, look, listen, these differences don't really mean much to us, and these are, just these are furu'i kind of issues. We're not interested, the greater good, and very kind of level-headed person, and talking about taking the Jamia Benoria to new heights, and great projects. And I spoke about that on one of my Monday nights. So this person now got all a bit triggered, and and then the conversation went from here to there to Sahih al-Bukhari to this to that, and it landed on the age of Aisha. And he said, what it is that you basically have a Western concept of pedophilia when you think of underage marriages. So I found this very shocking. So we must have spoke about this topic for something like maybe about 25 minutes. I said to him, look, listen, Maulana, are you saying that underage marriages are okay? Is this what you're saying? And he said, well, look, if somebody was to ask me today, he said, look, how it's not PC, it's not politically correct. So I said, well, thank you for telling me it's not politically correct to marry a child. I said, are you saying this is okay? You don't find. He said, no, I would say it's inappropriate. I was like, inappropriate. Inappropriate is not the word how you describe child rape, for the love of God. That's not the word inappropriate. For God's sake, inappropriate is left far behind. I said, is that what you don't call this wrong? And he said, well, I said, is it haram? He said, no, we can't say it's haram to, to marry a child. I said, well, you can't say it's haram. I said, so you don't believe it's immoral? And he said, these were his words. He said, well, on immoral, he got kind of he wavered a bit. And he said, well, well, you see, it can be immoral. So I said to him, okay, it can be. He said, yeah, in some occasions it can be. I said, okay, tell me the occasions on which it's not immoral. I'm intrigued to learn that. When is this not immoral? So, and this is an imam, a Maulana, a middle-aged man. So I said, tell me how is this not immoral? Give me an example of where it's not. So he said, well, I can give you two from the top of my head. I thought, I'm going to swear now. I was like, two? Okay, please. What are these two? He said, well, one is if the situation reverts to how it was historically. So I don't even understand what that means. So I said to him, you got to explain that to me. What the hell does that even mean? What does that mean? He didn't go on to explain that. He said, okay, I'll tell you the second. He said the second is if if a community is cut off from the rest of the world. So, like in the Amazon forest. I said, what, like in the Amazon? He said, yeah, like in, let's say, the Amazon regions, and you've got like in the forests or these kind of tribal remote people. I said, okay, what about them? He said, well, because they're cut off from the world, if they felt that it's in the welfare, maslaha, that they marry off the young daughter. And I said, what, like 8, 9, like this, yeah? And he said, yeah. I I said, that's fine, is it? And he said, these were his words. He said, yeah, because it's being done for her maslaha, for her welfare. I said, look, just to be clear, I'm not talking about taking care of financial and guardianship like that. I'm talking about a sexual relationship. You know, you're saying it's okay that this person goes and has sex with a child. Is this what you're goddamn saying? And he said, well, yeah, because that's in that sense it's halal. And I said, well, how on earth is that not rape? So he said, well, it's not rape because the parents have consented. Honestly, I was shocked. I was seriously like, what what on earth are you even uttering? How is that? And he said to me, well, look, historically people, oh, this was it. He was like, well, you see, they're not really children, because if they have to do an assessment, are they capable sexually? And I said, well, how, what on earth is, what the, what how do, what is an assessment? And he said, well, like people, they could have their menstrual cycle. I said, well, what the, so I said to him, look, first of all, little girls don't have a menstrual cycle. Secondly, I said, even if they've had that, why does that mean that they are, you know, ready for a sexual relationship? So he said to me, oh, so what are you saying? He used one analogy of saying, well, in countries like India, Pakistan, or these countries, they marry babies to each other. So I said, look, that's a dumb analogy, because yes, they do that in rural parts. Like, let's say this person has a son and his neighbor has a daughter, and they say, you know what? Okay, we're marrying them off. They obviously they're babies, but they're married. I've given the marriage, and you've given the daughter, I've given the son. I said that is like, in other words, it's like an engagement, but they're using words and in their customs. That is nothing like a 30-year-old, 35-year-old, 40-year-old, 45-year-old, 50 year. That is nothing like a grown man having sex with a child. That is nothing like, those two situations are not comparable by any measure. That is, the fact you're even making such a stupid, dumb analogy, right? It just goes to show, how warped your thinking is. So he said, well, okay, but in this case, he said that, well, historically, girls, they weren't girls, they were, oh, this is it, they were women. So it's not she wasn't a nine, women were, I mean, they weren't 9-year-old girls, they were 9-year-old women. Oh my God. So I said to him, look, first of all, the monarchy, the onset of the menstrual cycle, has actually started to come earlier in recent times due to better nutrition. In the past, there was a more delayed onset anthropologically. So it wouldn't have been at 9 and whatever. And he said, well, I can quote it to you. I know Malikis have even said this in the past. And, I know, what is it? He said the ulama used the word. And this really obviously peeved me right off. He said that he said that they described that, oh, because the girl is mushtahat, with the ta at the end, yeah? So I said, what? I said, mushtahat means to be lusted or to be desired sexually, yeah? That's what, so let me get this right. I said, you're saying that she's okay, suitable for marriage because men desire her. What kind of a goddamn, you know, measure is that? What kind of a yardstick is that? That men desire her. So if some pedophile desires that, that makes it okay. So he said, well, you know, your problem is you keep looking at this from a Western paradigm of pedophilia. And that's sick, of course. This is more about honoring. And wallahi, I honestly was so shocked. He said to me, I wouldn't have this conversation in public. You know, and this is what really pisses me off even more. That, you see, he said to me, I won't have this conversation in public. Like, if I ever speak to you in public, I won't mention these things because this is politically incorrect. So, this is the very definition of taqiyya. You know, this kind of what they accuse people like the Shia of. And this hypocrisy that you have a set of beliefs, but you voice another just to kind of fit in with society. But you don't really believe that. You have a different set of beliefs, which you are teaching. And that's the really, like, this is a person, like, look, now this Maulana Shakib, you know what he sent me the next day? He sent me this, like, I woke up the next morning and he had sent me um this, right? Like, you can see there, he sent me some screenshots um, showing that, look, the menstrual cycle can start as young as 8. And then he showed me that some scholars of the past have also said that. You know, they've also kind of said, you can see here, this is what he sent me that. And he said, look, the NHS says that some girls can have a period beginning from as early as 8. And and those are two kind of screenshots um of scholars saying this in the medieval ages. And I messaged him, as you could see there. I said, the fact you're using this to justify a sexual relationship with a child, I said that, you know what, that is so shocking and it's so horrific. And I said, I'm so disappointed with you and what you know, I don't know if it's what you've become, but just with you. Obviously, I didn't really carry on any conversation after that. But this, you see, is the problem. Now, people like this, like Maulana Shakib, they may, I'm not saying he's a pedophile. He's from my, I'm assuming he's not. Um, but this is the problem. You see, many of these Maulanas, and we're going to cover a bit of this later on with what some of these Maulanas spread in their literature. They're not necessarily pedophiles, they're not, but they are in positions of trust, educating parents and educating children these very rulings. That they are telling them that no, in Islam, this is okay, this is what God says, this is what, and that is the problem, you see. That is the problem, that these people are meant to be sources of trust, of of the deen, you know, the inheritors of prophethood. So that's why it becomes so much more annoying and frustrating, you know, when you have to deal with that. But yeah, there's a question there that right right, what do you think drives people like this Maulana to try to rationalize something as undesirable and immoral as child marriages? It's weird, like, but you're going to see some of what I'll share later on. It becomes normalized for them, that they go over so much literature that they normalize it. And that is the problem, you see. That is the problem. In fact, since we're, you know what, let's deal with that aspect first then. What the, or actually, should we, let me just see, deal with Yasser Qadi um first. Let me see. Yeah. Okay, let's deal with Yasir Qadi first, and then we'll come back to these people. All right, people. All right. Disclosure with a big D. That's what we're talking about. So we're going to continue with a bit of this. Now, the claim we'll take a look at is where Yasir Qadi had highlighted the concept of ijma. Obviously, I have to highlight that it'll be academic. Is ijma on the second coming? Many scholars have shown this ijma, hadith of great companions. Yeah, so this now, first of all, what we'll do is let's take a look at the hadith that he's presented, and then we'll tackle the topic of ijma. So, bringing up here, just bring that back, right? Mhm. Right, so there you can see this is a hadith right here by Thoban. Yasir al-Qadi does mention this. He says that. Now I'll just bring up straight away some of the issues that you can see here. So I'll just let this come through. The chain, first of all, this hadith and some of the problems. You can see the Abu Nadar from Baqiyya, from Abdullah ibn Salim, Abu Bakr ibn al-Walid al-Zubaydi, from Muhammad ibn al-Walid al-Zubaydi, from Luqman ibn Amir al-Wassabi, Abdul A'la ibn Adi al-Bahrani, from Thoban. Now, there's a number of issues straight away. Okay. Just looking at this, you've got, right, let me just move this out the way. So, first of all, this particular hadith, right now, this straight away, the sanad is declared weak. This is without me even weakening it. So you've got people like, this is in the Musnad of Ahmad, you've got people like Sheikh Shu'aib Arnaoud straight away declaring that the isnad is weak. You've got Baqiyya in it. Abu Hatim al-Razi says that his hadith were not relied upon. La yuhtajju bi. Abu Zur'a says that, that he would make tremendous mistakes. Even Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani mentions he would not only do tadlis, but he would blag from people who are weak, hide their names. Um, Ibn al-Qattan, Yahya ibn Sa'id al-Qattan would say Baqiyya would do tadlis, blag from people. Um, You've got people like Abdul Haq declared him unreliable. Yahya ibn Ma'in has problematized him as well. Same thing. Ad-Dawri says that there's, that his narrations are massively problematic. You've got Al-Asdi. Um, so all of these people, that's Baqiyya straight away problematized. Right. Then in the chain, you've got Abu Bakr az-Zubaydi. Now, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani says in his Taqrib that he's Majhul al-Hal, that he's somebody we don't really know anything about. We don't even know. Other people have described him as Majhul al-Ain, that he's somebody who tafarrada bil riwaya an Baqiyya. Oh, sorry, anhu Baqiyya, that he's somebody who Baqiyya has just, is the only one transmitting from him. We don't even know who he is. And then Baqiyya is such a problem, as you know already. Then moving on, Abdul A'la, you've got Ibn Adi al-Bahrani. Now, Abul Hasan ibn al-Qattan al-Fasi says we don't know, his hal, la tu'araf haluhu. And then he's also somebody that has been problematized by other scholars as well for, just hadith that did not go to the Prophet, reach the Prophet. He would just make them reach the Prophet and stuff like that. So, okay, now, the other point just to keep in mind there as well is this thing about India, because if you look at that hadith, the Prophet says that there's two groups of my ummah, that Allah will safeguard from the fire. One is those who will fight against India, and the other will fight against the Dajjal with, the whole thing of Jesus and so on. Now, just just about that. You see, just as I said a moment ago, that really the Prophet would not speak about places like India. When you get these kind of hadith, it's a clear alarm bell that this hadith is going to be fabricated. Honestly, it was not, in that day and age, the Prophet wouldn't have even spoken of places like Damascus that these people bring into it. Clearly introduced by people much after. But okay, this chain is utterly unreliable, massively problematic. Okay, but let's move on. You've got so that's fine. Let's take a look at the next hadith. So you have another hadith that is from Mujammi' ibn Jariya al-Ansari. So now this is where it gets a bit more interesting. So okay, now right. So here you've got this hadith from Mujammi' ibn Jariya that the Prophet said that Jesus will kill the Dajjal at Bab Lud, which is Lidda or Lod. And then there's some other companions allegedly to have said this same thing as well. Obviously, none of the major companions, but other companions have allegedly said this as well. So, okay. Now, I've highlighted straight away some of the issues right there. Qutayba, we've highlighted the problems previously. I did mention that he generally is a thiqa, but there's been issues when he transmits from Layth. And I gave the example where he transmits a hadith that has been from somebody who was a liar, like Khalid al-Madaini, but he pretends like he omits the name of Khalid and just transmits it straight from Layth. But then he's caught out, you know. In fact, Bukhari is the one who mentions that I said to Qutayba, Ma'man katabta anil Layth. Um, and he mentions that, oh, with this person, and Khalid al-Madaini was there, and so this is why some people had declared that hadith completely. Hakim considers his hadith of Tabuk as fabricated. So there are problems with him. Now, Layth, okay, once again, generally he can be reliable. However, there are certain question marks around him. This is Layth ibn Sa'ad, especially when he transmits from Zuhri. There is ittirab, that means he conflates narrations. Um, and you'll see that, people, Yaqub ibn Shayba will also, he highlights that Layth ibn Sa'ad, he is a thiqa, but he is duna ruwat fi Zuhri. He's not like Malik or Ma'mar or these people, or even Sufyan ibn Uyayna, who is actually not that strong from Zuhri either. But and he mentions وفي حديثه عن الزهري, when he transmits from Zuhri, there's اضطراب, okay, في روايته. Now, obviously, Zuhri, we've already highlighted a ton of problems with. And Ubaidullah ibn Abdullah ibn Tha'laba al-Ansari, you've got, once again, problematized. Even Muslim brings him in the Munfaridat, and he mentions ممن تفرد عنه الزهري ممن لم يروي عنه أحد سواه فيما علمنا, that nobody else transmits from him except Zuhri. We've never heard of this guy being, to the extent that Ibn Hajar highlights that لا يعرف, we don't know who he is, he's unknown. Right, so okay, those are some of the problems in the chain. But then this Lud, es muy interesante, people. So we'll have to pay attention to that. Let's keep moving. Let's keep. Right, so there's the next narration. Now, this one, once again, from Nawas. And I know we did this chain previously as well. Right, so we did this. This was the chain we covered previously. And but right now, just bringing back So, peoples. First of all, it was interesting that the matan has some problems. This is the same text, I've highlighted this before, that when the hadith begins, the Prophet is allegedly saying, "Oh, if the Dajjal comes now whilst I'm here, don't worry, I've got this." There's no in the whereas he ought to say that, well, actually Jesus will come, but he says, "Fa ana hajijuhu dunakum," I will handle him. Don't worry. But let's take a look. Walid ibn Muslim. Now, um, he's somebody as well who would do tadlis, and he would do tadlis from people who were problematic. On certain occasions, they were liars, kadhab. He would hide their names and blag the chain. That was Walid ibn Muslim. Ahmad ibn Hanbal says he's made many mistakes. He says kathirul khata. He says ikhtalitat alayhi ahadith ma sami' wa ma lam yasma'. He would mix narrations that he's heard and those that he hasn't heard. He would mix them together, bundle them, and transmit them. Ibn Hajar says he maybe, sometimes okay, but he does a lot of tadlis, a lot of blagging the names sometimes. Dar Qutni mentions a similar thing. Dhahabi highlights that, kind of mudallisan. This is something, even though they will say, look, they will praise him, but they acknowledge that he's somebody who would blag the names. And then you've got Abdurrahman ibn Yazid ibn Jabir. Fallas said he's weak. Al-Fallas. Nasa'i said matruk. Some people have even said kadhab. A liar. Right. So then you've got Yahya ibn Jabir al-Ta'i, the Qadi of Hums. Um, once again, somebody who would hadith that wouldn't reach the Prophet, he'd make them kind of reach. Now that's not such a big deal. It can be, but when you're putting all these problems together, Abdurrahman ibn Jubair, then who's next, and some people, as Ibn Sa'ad had said, that some people problematized and rejected his hadith. Okay, now this does come in other books as well. In Muslim, we covered that previously, the same chain, and showed the problems with it. Okay, so now, and this was the Sahih Muslim chain which we covered. And it's the same thing that you can see there. Right, now what's interesting is, yep, this hadith, sorry to bring it back up, people. But that rain is right there. I won't go too much into that rain. You know what that rain is all about. Yep, you guys know it. Allegedly, in the other narration, there it is, people. The rain. Okay, we're gonna skip over that. That's cool. You see, what's interesting though, people, is in this hadith. Now, this is the one in Tirmidhi we're covering. You see, what's interesting is that where will Jesus take people? You see, there's going to be huge problems. The Dajjal, then after the Dajjal, you've got these Ya'juj, Ma'juj that are going to come, and that's problematic because apparently in this hadith, Allah is saying they are servants of His. I thought they are people that are creating fasad in the Quran. It says, Mufsiduna fil ard, that these are people spread great fitna and corruption on the earth, but here they are servants of God. And God is going to send His servants, قَدْ أَنزَلْتُ عِبَادًا لِي. But where does God tell Jesus to take mankind to save them? Is it Mecca and Medina, as the hadith mentioned, as you guys will remember, that the hadith mentioned that Mecca and Medina are the places that, are safeguarded? Is that where they will go? Nope. He will take them to Mount Sinai. So Jesus is taking them to Mount Sinai. MashaAllah. So that in and of itself starts to show part of the problems. Now, this Babul Lud is very specific that Jesus will kill the Antichrist. Where will he kill him? at Lod, okay, Babul Lud, now which is in Palestine, in Sham, sorry, yeah, in Palestine. The mention of Lod, and keeping in mind that this hadith of Nawas, he only transmits from the people of that region. Now, here it is interesting, people. You guys will say, well, Mufti, where do these stories originate? Okay, people, okay. Let me bring your attention to something. Because it's very intriguing that the Prophet is being so precise. Not only is Jesus going to come and kill the Antichrist, he's going to kill him at Lod. Ay, Lod. Ay, Babul Lud. I wonder what Babul Lud is all about then. Because, isn't that, it's so precise? Does not one wonder why I'm saying this? As Molvi Osman would say, why I'm saying this is because it's intriguing people. So let's take a look at that, shall we? Guess who, people? We have to go back in time. Let's go back, people, at least 200 to 300 years before the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We're going to go right back into actually just the 3rd century after Christ, into the mid 200s, going up the late 200s. Sorry, I want to bring your attention to Saint George. What? Mufti? Saint George? Saint George, people. Saint George. Saint George, right now, he is of Lod. Saint George is of Lod, which is called Lud in Arabic, as you can see. And he was a Christian saint, the patron saint of England. All right, hail England, people. Saint George's Cross. Now, here he is, the famous tale, killing the dragon, which is obviously mythical. But people, did you know that Saint George, or this pious Christian who was part of the Roman army, and he was a knight, and then he embraces the word of God, and he fights for the word of God, as in for Jesus and belief in Christianity. There had been several emperors who had attacked Christianity. The final emperor to really try and clamp down on Christianity was Diocletian. Okay. He has St. George executed for his beliefs because he really tried to stamp them out. Now, you can see here that it seems that the Emperor Diocletian, he had him tortured, and it's in the year 303, and then eventually beheaded at, where else? Lod. Now, St. George is one of the most major saints and martyrs of Christianity that dealt with the great persecution. The greatest fitna. The greatest fitna is what? The greatest persecution for the Christians. Many Christian priests and bishops and scholars at the time deemed these emperors to be what? The Dajjals, the Antichrist. And the last of them was who? Was Diocletian. Diocletian, because he was the 10th and he was this major, this great persecution against Christianity, he was deemed by the priesthood of his time to be the Dajjal, the Antichrist. Okay. Now, you can see here that these are, that I'm quoting there. So you see that the first of his edicts was to prohibit all Christian worship. That's a coin of Diocletian. commanded that churches and books be burned and destroyed. He required the eastern provinces, which is where St. George would be, that he ordered the clergy to be arrested and then to be tortured till their death if they do not abandon Christianity and glorify the pagan gods. It is described as not only the great persecution, but the great final struggle, people, the Armageddon, the final struggle against the old and new world orders. Now, so, and the culmination of all of this, you can see this, all the great efforts were with this. And he goes on, he does kill St. George, he martyrs him, has him beheaded at Lod, at Bab al-Lud. And then it does carry on for like almost another year, and then uh, he kind of goes into, he kind of resigns his reign. And that was that there was no persecution of the Christians after that. Now, there was this belief that Diocletian was the Antichrist, and because he martyred one of the greatest saints of Christianity at Babul Lud, at Lidda or Lod, that Jesus will come back. And where will he execute? Where will Jesus execute the Antichrist? He will execute him at Babul Lud, thereby avenging the death, the brutal torture and death of St. George. This, ladies and gentlemen, you tell me, is this a coincidence? Is that what this is? Because to me, this Bab al-Lud, I would see very clearly that this is the origin of that story, that then, it continues for maybe the next 2 centuries, and then people as they, whether they become Muslim or it exists in that surrounding, you have to keep in mind something. When Muslims took over the Middle East, the majority of the land remained non-Muslim. We have this false understanding that when, Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anh went up there, or the Battle of Yarmouk, or the Battle of Qadisiyah, then everybody's Muslim. No, they weren't. It probably took something like 400 years to have maybe just tip to get a slight majority of Muslims. Then after that, like maybe 500 years, 600, then Muslims are 600 years, Muslims are the clear majority in that whole region. But for the first several hundred years, Muslims are not the majority. They are just the ruling powers. And they have a strong presence. They're not like, you hardly ever see a Muslim, but they are not the majority. The majority of people are still Christians or Persians or Jewish or whatever they were, whether they're Zoroastrians or. So when you have a very strong community, and so it's not just community, regions with these narratives, you can now see how these narratives can start to creep in. Okay, so that's the. I thought it was important to explain that. Right. What I want to then take a look at is Yasser Qadi's point on, because the reason, by the way, the reason I'm saying that is because people ask, how can this stuff creep in? And I'm showing you how it creeps in. Then Yasser Qadi goes on to speak about ijma. And he says, quoting these people, that there is an ijma on this. So just to give some idea about ijma. Right, so you can see here that this is on the right-hand side. Ibn Ashur, first of all, highlighting the problems with ijma. Okay. And him mentioning that, look, what people today use as the evidences for ijma is not what, for example, the early people like Imam Shafi'i used. They use this verse, "Whosoever goes against the path of the believers," and he mentions that, look, this is people like Ghazali. You've got Juwaini, other people, Ibn al-Hajib. They all highlight that this is a weak evidence in trying to highlight ijma. Right, then there's the hadith, لا تجتمع أمتي على الضلالة, and he's highlighting that's a da'if hadith. Da'if. Many scholars he highlights, um, Al-Aini, other people as well, Sindhi, you've got in its isnad Abu Khalaf al-A'ma and other people, they're weak, utterly unacceptable. It's fascinating on the left-hand side what you have Sheikh Shaltut, the great scholar of Al-Azhar, highlighting that, look, لا أكاد أعرف شيئا اشتهر بين الناس أنه أصل من أصول التشريع في الإسلام ثم تناولته الآراء واختلفت فيه المذاهب من جميع جهاته كهذا الأصل الذي يسمونه الإجماع. Said, I don't find anything in Islam that has the impression or the myth that it is a foundation of Islam, yet it is so bizarrely disputed. He says anything like ijma. Because ijma, in essence, is people saying there is a consensus. Now, these claims, just so you know, are blags for the most part. And I've got a video, detailed video, do watch it on ijma, highlighting that. You see, the problems with ijma are this. When you say consensus, who do you mean? None of the scholars can agree on what they mean by this. Some people say a consensus is the whole Muslim ummah, like the hadith says, لا تجتمع أمتي. But most scholars would reject that. They would say, no, the ummah doesn't count. By the ummah, we mean just the ulama. Then they say, okay, which ulama? Sunni ulama, Shia ulama, Mu'tazila, Khawarij, Ibadis, which ulama? Ismailis? They say, no, only the Sunnis. Acha. And then which ulama of the Sunnis? They call them kafir, you're going to look at, there's obviously huge sects, the Ash'aris, the Hanbalis, the Salafis, Maturidis. Who is going to call who the Sunni philosophers? Who are these people of the ijma? So one is, there is no agreement, there is no consensus on the definition of consensus. And then, as Imam Shafi'i said, that how do you know who is a scholar? Because people, there's no scholar except somebody would deem him a jahil and somebody would call him a kafir. I mean, let's take a look at me. कोई मीर जैसा गिरफ्ता दिल तेरे सामने की मिसाल था. As the poet says, he says, तूने गौर नहीं किया, that you never paid attention ever, कि ये लोग कैसे उजड़ गए, that how did these people go to ruin? Never contemplated. कोई मीर जैसा गिरफ्ता दिल तेरे सामने की मिसाल. You had the likes of Mir, whose heart was captured, as a living example in front of you. But in the words of Mir, अफसोस तुमको मीर से सोहबत नहीं रही. It's a shame that you no longer have the good company of Mir. You see, look, now let's just take, I don't mean me to kind of boost the ego, massaging the ego, but realistically, let's say, look, I've done an alim course, a mufti course, I've memorized the Quran, I've studied the major books of hadith cover to cover, I've read the entire Quran with an ijazah going back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I've read the major books of hadith with a chain going back to their authors. I've I have an ijaza in fiqh books, right? It's going back to their authors, a huge part, mainly through Abdul Hayy al-Kattani. Now, I have trained in giving fatwa according to the Maliki and Hanafi madhab. Yet, people will say, oh, because I disagree with you, forget Mufti, you're not even a Muslim, as you'll see in a moment. So, I'm no exception. Not today, in the future session, maybe next week or one of the sessions after, I will go through all those people who called Abu Hanifa a kafir and misguided. You'll be shocked. In fact, Imam Ahmad brings in his book a statement saying that, his son brings in his book of Kitab al-Sunnah, he says to someone, what would you say about a mas'ala that Malik, Ahmad, Shafi'i, Awza'i, Sufyan al-Thawri, Waqi', all these great Imams, Ibn al-Mubarak, all these great Imams are in agreement on? And the person says, well, that must be one of the most soundest uh, issues or points in Islam, if all these great Imams have agreed on it. He says, well, they agreed upon the misguidance and the and the heresy of Abu Hanifa. And I'll bring the statements where they outright call him a kafir. And they actually say that, when he died, they praise God that this zindiq and this kafir, or I'll bring the words, but they call him a kafir or they call him absolutely misguided, spreading fitna. There were several people who called him a kafir, and some may not have called him a kafir, but they didn't consider him Sunni, and they considered him a deviant. Now, that is the great Imam Abu Hanifa. Do you think they would have considered him in their ijma? Hell no. They were so grateful to God that he died. Sufyan al-Thawri celebrates his death. This is the likes of Imam Abu Hanifa. So this is nothing new. This sectarian game is nothing new. Wherever you find the clergy, you'll find corrupt politics of power. So how do you decide who is part of this ijma? This is why Imam Ahmad said that anybody who claims ijma, he says, is a liar, because people may have disagreed. How do you know? How did you go around collecting everybody's opinion? And did they voice this opinion? Or is this just, well, I don't know anybody who disagreed? Well, who the hell are you? I didn't know. Acha, cha, cha, cha. You didn't know. Abe, chache. What difference does your not knowing make? It's like how Sanjay Dutt says in that movie. He says, "Tere kehne se kya hota hai?" That by you saying it, what different? Let me go and say it, he says. Okay, so let's come back here. You've got here, these are just some statements about ijma. Now, just to give you an example, that scholars would quote this whenever they wanted to pull a power stunt to demonstrate some kind of control. They would say, what? Oh, there's ijma. Look, here is an example. Now, before we begin, this is Ibn Hazm, an example of the beard and some masail of ijma. But before we begin that, Jesus. So Jesus is going to come back. Our beloved Yasir Qadi Sahib says, look, there is an agreement. Nobody disagreed. Yasir Qadi. Nobody disagreed. This is a book by Ibn Hazm. Yeah. Now, he passes away in the mid 400s. Now, he writes this book saying, I've not included, he says certain deviants or what, but the main scholars, this is something, what I've put in here, the whole ummah has, for the most part, agreed on. So he brings those issues. He brings here, this is in this book, page 268. Maybe different editions have it differently. He says, look, He says, وَلَا نَبِيَّ مَعَ مُحَمَّدٍ وَلَا بَعْدَهُ أَبَدًا. Now he says that there's no prophet after the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Excuse me, Maulana Qasim Nanotwi Sahab. We're going to come to him in a while. Obviously, Maulana Qasim Nanotwi slightly disagrees. Slightly, you know. So he says, look, إِلَّا أَنَّهُمْ اخْتَلَفُوا فِي عِيسَى عليه السلام. He says, except they disagreed. Who? He begins the book by saying who those people are. When he says, sorry, who, he says, the ulama. And وَالنَّجْمَعَ الْمَسَائِلِ الَّتِي صَحَّ فِيهَا الْإِجْمَاعِ. Those issues in which ijma is valid. And he mentions that nobody has disagreed with. وإنما ندخل في هذا الكتاب الإجماع التام. Okay, الذي يعلم. So he says إلا أنهم اختلفوا, except they disagreed about Isa. أيأتي قبل يوم القيامة أم لا. And he says وهو عيسى ابن مريم المبعوث إلى بني إسرائيل. He says the Muslims have disagreed. Will Jesus come back before the end of time or not? They disagreed in this. When did they disagree? They disagree. Oh, Muhammad Abdu, you naughty, time traveling again, going back and teaching Ibn Hazm that you see now they're gonna. And you know the interesting thing is their Dada Ibn Taymiyyah has a critique of it, which is right at the end. His critique is attached. So he highlights when Ibn Hazm has made a mistake. Does he highlight that point to be mistaken? No, bhaiya. Sorry, bhaiya. Ghalti se mistake hogi. So Ibn Taymiyyah doesn't actually say Ibn Hazm got that wrong. ये क्या हो रहा है? ये क्या हो रहा है? So, yeah. Now, they're going to say, well, oh, but he never gave the name of the ulama. He never said who any. But he's told you the Muslims have disagreed. Now, you see, there has been a systematic attempt to eradicate differences. And I'm going to show you that in a moment as well, with Ijma, where this has happened. You see, there are efforts to bury dissents. And this is a very sectarian game. Now let's come back to here, however, same Ibn Hazm, same book. He is highlighting that there is an ijma that he mentions. Now look, why am I highlighting this? Because when I say that, look, Ibn Hazm has said this, they don't accept it. No. But then they quote Ibn Hazm when it suits them. So on saying you must keep a beard, they quote Ibn Hazm's Ijma'. Then there you've got on the left-hand side Ibn Taymiyyah and Ijma' about it being haram to wear silk. Now what's interesting is I'm going to show you that when this Ijma' card is used, I was not quoting Ibn Hazm to show Ijma'. By the way, in case you say, well, why does Mufti disagree with Ibn Hazm's Ijma' then? I was highlighting Ibn Hazm to show you the dissent, the disagreement amongst people. He highlights that the Muslims do not unanimously agree that there is a second coming of Jesus. He mentions this almost 1,000 years ago. So people don't think some modern thing that has surfaced with Muhammad Abdu. And today, Ghamidi Saab has said it, or as our beloved Sita and Gita are saying that, I've taken this and people have taken this from Ghulam Ahmad Qadiani. Ghulam Ahmad Qadiani. So before him, Ibn Hazm must have taken it from him as well. So this, just to highlight, and when I quoted Taftazani last week as well. Now people say, oh, some people have said there's an ijma on believing in the second coming. That's nonsense. I've already just shown there was no ijma. But when people use ijma, there are always disagreements. This is just a power tool. So here you can see they're quoting an ijma that it's haram to shave the beard. And then Ibn Taymiyyah also highlighting the ijma of, he's highlighting about silk. So just to bring this up here. Now what I'm going to do is just show a few issues where they completely disagree. And there is no ijma. You'll see that yourself, that just because they say there's ijma. So here, this is the Don, Qadi Iyad, in his commentary on Sahih Muslim. Now, he highlights, as you can see, under speaking of beards, he says, قال القاضي. He says, وَكُرِهَ قَصُّهَا وَحَلْقُهَا. Okay, وَكُرِهَ حَلْقُهَا. Not حُرِّمَ. He says, it's disliked to completely shave. What did they say there was an ijma? They said there is an ijma that it is haram. No, Malikis disliked. Just as other people said, even some Shafi'is, that is disliked. So, okay, put that over there. Right, you had... Right, okay, let's move on, people. Move on. Right, here you've got ijma being quoted once again. Right. There is ijma that it is haram to it is haram to listen to music. This is ijma, people. This one, the ijma, as you can see there. And they mention, look, all these people have mentioned the ijma. Qurtubi, Ibn Salah, Ibn Rajab, Ibn Salah. They say there is ijma. Acha. Isa ka. Oh, ijma. Yet here in Nailul Awtar, you'll have Shawkani going through all the evidences, highlighting all the scholars that have disagreed and said that music is permissible. And I've got a detailed video on that, and you can watch it. And he says that, look, there's many of the Malikiya, the Zahiriya, the Hanabila. He highlights Ibn Hazm, saying it's permissible. The great Maliki Tajuddin al-Fakahani saying, Lam a'lam fi kitabillahi wala fi sunnah hadithan sahihan sarihan. I don't know one single sahih sarih hadith that says music is haram. And it's the same thing Ibn Arabi says in his tafsir of the Quran as well. And he finishes by saying that, look, he says, إذا خرج عن دائرة الحرام لم يخرج عن دائرة الاشتباه. He says that what I say is that this, we can't really say it's haram, but maybe it's doubtful. That's what he ends up with. So once again, look, no ijma. But they mention it. Gold, right? You've got that there, that gold is haram. What does Ibn Daqiq al-Eid mention in his commentary? He brings at least 5 companions of the Prophet that died whilst wearing gold. The great scholar of Medina, Abu Bakr ibn Hazm, not this Ibn Hazm, the Abu Bakr ibn Hazm, who was a contemporary of Zuhri. And one of the first people to compile hadith, he would wear a gold ring. You see, so when people say ijma, it does not mean that it is actually an ijma. It's just people's blags. There's always great scholars who have disagreed. And I don't just mean any scholars, great scholars. So you've got here now, look, here you've got Qurtubi, and he's a Maliki, and this one, my friend, this topic now He's talking about the the sacs, the sacs. So he's going to the anal, the anal, the annual sex. So that's what it's going to talk about, the annual sex. So you can see here they're going to claim an ijma, that there is an ijma that the annual sex is haram in Islam. Is ijma of the ummah. And ijma is that which, if you go against, you're a kafir. This is what ijma means. And that's what Ibn Hazm highlights in the beginning as well of his book. And this was one of the earliest books in Islam to be written about ijma after Ibn Munzir. So, and he highlights that right in the beginning. He says that, look, and ijma is shartul ijma sahih and yukaffar man khalafahu bil ikhtilaf bayna ahad min al-muslimin. He says what a true ijma is if anybody goes against it, they have left Islam. That's the kind of thing. So they say that's also about anal, the anal. So let's take a look, people. What this one? So you can see that there. You've got Qurtubi saying that there is an ijma about that it is haram, but yet on the left hand side, the one with the color font, that's taken from Abu Bakr ibn al-Arabi, who is much superior to Qurtubi and a great Maliki, obviously the Don from Muslim Spain. Him highlighting اختلف العلماء. The scholars have disagreed about the anal. He says many people said it was permissible. Look, Ibn Sha'ban, Abu Ishaq ibn Sha'ban, the great Maliki, he has a book called Jima' niswan, the the intercaste, the intercaste and the rulings of the Quran. And he shows that it's permissible. He mentions many companions, tabi'een, including Imam Malik. He mentions many riwayat. And also Bukhari, Ibn Arabi saying Bukhari shows the hadith that Ibn Umar would translate, do the tafsir of the Quran in that way. So this is, you see, you've got one scholar and many scholars claiming there is ijma that this is haram. Other scholars saying no, it's absolutely fine. Now, just on the anal, whilst we're on the anal, see, this is bayan wa tahsil. It took for over 2 decades for the granddaddy Ibn Rushd to write this. And in this, he brings the topic. He brings the topic, man, of the the sax, the sax. But that one, the annual. So he brings it, and he brings a quote from Imam Malik, the fatwa from Malik, saying, he brings this from Malik, and it's written in a special code. He even teaches you how to decipher the code. But then he quotes as well that Imam Malik سأل ابن القاسم مالكا في هذه الرواية عن الوطأ في الدبر. Ibn al-Qasim asked Imam Malik, and he said, حلال لا بأس به. And he said, أحل من الماء البارد. He said, it's more halal than cold water. Yo, Imam Malik, you're doing it. So, and then he goes on. Now, Ibn Rushd does highlight that, look, he feels that maybe these things, that's not what Malik meant or so on. But he brings this, he does not say that this is absolutely fabricated or anything like this. Not at all, man. And Ibn Arabi, as I highlighted, who was also from Muslim Spain, as was he, shows that. Now I want to show you something, people. When people say, Mufti, but why things not mentioned in the books, in the book? And I tell you, people bury this stuff. And you say, but Mufti, this Sahih al-Bukhari, Muhammad ibn Ismail al-Bukhari, برواية Muhammad ibn Yusuf al-Farabri. All right, Farabri, touch Farabri, touch. Farabri. This is by the blessings of Farabri. We have this al-Bukhari, and you can obviously watch my Bukhari Gate or my detailed lecture with Dr. Abdul Majid. Now, in the Kitab of Tafsir, you have the verse that Nisa'ukum harthul lakum. that the famous verse that Allah is saying that when they were asking about sexual rulings, that they are like your own earth in that sense. Obviously, the metaphor is to the way the earth brings forward harvest, women will also bring forward children. But it mentions fatu harthakum anna shi'tum. You know, what you do with how you come about to the earth is up to you guys. It's up to anna, however, and wherever. So when here you've got a hadith number 4527. 4527 by Ibn Umar. Now check this out, people. Right, you can see this there. This hadith, Ibn Umar is asked that what does this mean? Qala ya'tiha fi. Now notice after that, after the fi, right there, that he can penetrate, in then the word, the special word, is missing. Where the actual word is dubar in Arabic, which means the derriere, you know, the derriere, the behind. It's missing. They omitted it. Who omitted it? The manuscript, I mean, the scribes, people along the way, scholars, because they disagreed with it. So they dropped the word. But some scholars still had hold of it. This is why they write it. They acknowledge that, look, this does exist. In fact, what's interesting is Ibn Qayyim actually. Ibn Qayyim. Ibn Qayyim says, yes, it's true that Ibn Umar said this, but he was mistaken. He had a waham. He misunderstood Arabic. Ibn Qayyim. Who misunderstood Arabic? Ibn Umar misunderstood Arabic. He misunderstood that you can come to the women from behind, as in the tras, or what is it? He's like, he misunderstood the meaning fi and min. Your prepositions. Ibn Umar radiallahu anh didn't understand prepositions, but your dada Ibn Qayyim, alhamdulillah, he understands prepositions. Ibn Qayyim, you're doing it. So this is to give you an idea. See, the reason I'm showing this is that these are things they claim to have ijma'. There's never ijma' in these fiqhi rulings. Look at this. This is a verse of the Quran. Yeah, a verse of the Quran about menstruation. Now, you'd think, well, this is something that the scholars definitely would never have disagreed on. You'd think that, if there's anything they've agreed on, it's going to be stuff like this. That, my dear friends. No, they don't agree on this. You see, you'd think that the Quran says, يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْمَحِيضِ قُلْ هُوَ أَذًى فَاعْتَزِلُوا النِّسَاءَ فِي الْمَحِيضِ. Do not have the intercourse, the intercourse during the menstrual cycle. So you'd think that there would be an ijma' on this, right? I'm just saying that this is what one would imagine. But, okay, let's take a look, man. This one, Mawsu'atul Fiqhiyya, man. Oof. This is indexed. So you come to the topic. It has a topic. Ghulma, which means lust. Lust. We come to lust, people. Lust. In lust, they have this discussion. What if somebody is fasting or things like this, and they discuss it, this is in the Hanbali fiqh books. If a person who has shabaq, like he has basically he's a sexaholic. Guilty. If a person, basically if you go to the Sexaholics Anonymous meetings, right, so they mention such a person, he can have sex even if his wife is on the menstrual cycle. They go on to mention, what if he's fasting and she's fasting? And that's the only chance he has. Like, basically, that's the only person he can have sex with. Then they say, no problem, yaar. Don't do it, yaar. They take the Nike, the Nike. They go, don't worry, just do it. They go, just do it. So they mention وتجري أحكام صاحب الغلمة أو الشبق عند الحنابلة في جواز الوطء وإفساد صوم زوجته المسلمة البالغة. Now he does mention they mention some disgusting things here as well. This is in the Hanbali fiqh. This is in the Mughni, by the way, of Ibn Qudama. It's mentioned here as volume 3. It's also in the Kishaf al-Qina', volume 2, but and also in volume 5 as well. They mention here that if his menstruating wife is, because menstruation is made haram by the Quran, they say if she's the only option, then just do it, man. But they give an alternative, and astaghfirullah, this comes back to that problem. They say that, look, unless there was somebody else he could have sex with, and they mention that if he can, then yajibul ijtinab, that he should avoid the menstruate, ijtinabul ha'id, lil istighna anha, if he can do with somebody else, but who? And they give the example. They say, and this is in the Hanbali fiqh books, biwata is saghira, by having sex with an underage girl, wakadhal majnuna, or the girl who is mentally handicapped. You see, now that's obviously very, not only shocking to the core, but so nauseating. But it's these things, people, that these people are reading from. You know, when somebody asked, why do these imams not declare this stuff to be immoral? Because they've been reading it for so long that they've normalized it. You see, now they will say that because it's in, but such and such wrote it. Ibn Qudama wrote it, 800 years ago. Well, who gives a damn? Okay, he may have written it, but Allah gave you an aql. Okay, so these are some of the important points I wanted to highlight, and that brings us to the end of that section on ijma. My point was to highlight some of the inconsistencies of the hadith that were mentioned, the kind of shocking, you can see almost inherited culture of Babul Lud, of Lod, or Lidda in Greek, and St. George, and Diocletian being the Antichrist, and retaliation. Okay, so that I thought, well, let me just stop that. Right, so right, so yeah, so this is why I'm highlighting that, because look, those ahadith, we went over Nawas ibn Sam'an, we went over Thoban's Riwayah Mujamma' ibn Jariyah, all problematized. None of them can stand any true criticism, right? So nothing conclusive from them. Then the content, India, Bab Lud, one of them I think mentions Lake Tiberia, what is it? One of the, I think it's called Lake Tiberias or something, but it's it's called Tabarstan, or this was not the language of the Prophet to be speaking like this about what's happening in China, what's happening. In that time, it was not. Otherwise, the Quran would have addressed them with this language. So then this claim of ijma. And I showed that, look, this is a myth. In addition to that, whenever they claim ijma, people always disagree. And shockingly, the very books they quote for Beard, Ibn Hazm, he actually cites that the Muslims never agreed on the second coming of Jesus, almost 1,000 years ago. So when people say, well, this is from, modern day Muhammad Abdu, or from Qadiani, or from somebody else. No, it isn't. This is all in our literature. But when people ask, why can't we find more detail? Because people have buried it. And that is a fine example that, look, this is a hadith book allegedly going back to the Prophet and who the Prophet taught. Yet they buried the word on anal sex because they disagreed with it. So they buried a companion's tafsir of the Quran. They buried it. I mean, that's with the companions of the Prophet, Ibn Umar. And Ibn Qayyim went on to say, oh, he had a waham in the Arabic language. He didn't understand Arabic properly. But me, coming so much later, mashallah, because my dada, Ibn Qayyim, was worked in that, his granddad worked in that, the madrasa of Ibn al-Jawzi. So, because I'm, from this heritage, alhamdulillah, I know Arabic, but Ibn Umar didn't know Arabic, and they buried a word, concealed it from the later ummah, because they disagree. So, what do you think they will do with the words of scholars? If that's the teaching, the tafsir of the Quran by a companion who lived with the Prophet and who is the brother-in-law of the Prophet, they buried his tafsir because they disagreed with his ruling, because they saw it as too liberal in sex. The scholars don't stand a chance. Any scholars that disagree, they will bury their things if they can. I hope that helps. What we'll do is we'll take a few, I'm just going to see if there's any quick super chats, and then we'll come back to our beloveds. Okay, so let's take a look, people. Let's take a look, man. All right, ja, Mufti, you're doing it. You're doing it. Zebaji, shukran. Dearly appreciated. Ja, you're doing it. Shukran. What's going on? Right. Right. So, questions about Avengers. We're going to come to the Avengers now. But we've got a new. You see, all this while, there was an identity that Molvi Saab was hiding from us. But today we unveil this one. Why I'm saying this? I am Molvi Usman. Why I'm saying this? I mean, who speaks like that? Why I'm saying this? Why I'm doing this is, you know what? I am gonna pay for Molvi Usman's visa. I'm gonna pay for it. Yeah, yeah. मैं खर्चा उठाऊंगा यार. You put in that visa form, right? I will support you, yaar. I will pay the solicitor costs. We need you here, yaar. We need you in the UK. So, all right. Right. So, Saab. What does Saab mean? Saab is Saab is endearment, respectful, man. Somebody said hijab mentioned you, but not with name. I did watch that Muhammad Hijab really having a go at Sajid Lipham, Snow White. But you know what, though? I have to say, I've said this before on a few occasions, that look, first of all, at least hijab is articulate. Okay, we're dealing with some of these people can't even speak English. At least he speaks English. And he is definitely intelligent. The problem is he is a Salafi, but I feel that he's actually outgrowing that Salafi, those kind of shackles. Because the way he ousted Albani and has gone against Sajid Lipham and Gangu Teli and all these people, I genuinely stick true to my words that I said. I said that when I was doing a review of something of Muhammad Hijab, I said that, look, next 5 to 10 years, I can really see Muhammad Hijab having done a complete U-turn on many of the and becoming just enlightened. I can see that because he is actually genuinely he's intelligent. You can tell. Obviously, I think sometimes they overdo it with the trying to use philosophy just to kind of get over people. Uh, and because of the Salafi shackles, they make dumb points because of that. But otherwise, it's not that he's unintelligent. Whereas some people, you can just tell that they're not intelligent. Like Yasser Qadi, you can tell he's intelligent. The guy is intelligent. But then this is why it's more annoying when he does when he misleads people with half truths. Because you think, well, you're actually intelligent, you see. So some people are a bit simple minded. Yeah. So yeah, somebody said, "Look, hijab is intelligent." Yeah, he is, and hijab is a cringe bully. Yeah, I mean the bullying thing. Yeah, he definitely does that. But that, I think he's actually no. I think he does have these outbursts actually. But if let's say he continues to go down this intellectual enlightened route, then I think with age that will mature. Yeah. So how many of thoughts on Tim Humble? Um, I, I haven't really watched hardly anything of Tim Humble, so I'll have to check it out first. Mufti, is it not agreed consensus where scholars have prohibited following any of the schools and absolute mujtahid since the 8th century? Just read that out aloud. Look how dumb it sounds. How can it be that in Islam there is a divine ruling in the 8th century? That means the Prophet never said it, the Quran never said it, God never said it. But yeah, Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali wrote it. This is what you're referring to, when he and people of his time said, um, following any of the other four schools is other than the four schools is now haram, and this is now we've got an ijma on it. There's no such thing like that as ijma. Right, yeah. Somebody said explain your gym routine. Come on, yar, I can't do that right now. I'm in the middle of trying to deal with all this. And I'm just suffering. I'm waiting for the gyms to open. I'm having to do stuff myself, and this is not the same. Um, all right. Look at this. I forgot. Hijab needs to grow. Yeah, but I have hope for Muhammad Hijab. Allahu A'lam. Maybe let's see in the future. But I feel that there's people you have hope for. People like you could take a look at Dawa Man. Like I don't think Dawa Man would ever change, and I don't think Dawa Man is that kind of intellectual person. I mean, he can speak English at least, much. He can speak it well. He can speak it much better than these kind of Sita and Gita. But he, you see, he's not going. He's that hardline Salafi. That's what he is. Some people you can see they're outgrowing this. Like one of the things I heard Muhammad Hijab say recently was that why do these people not respect the madhabs? And I thought that's a very good point. Like they get so offended by him outlining these things about Albani, but why don't they get equally outraged when they're dissing the madhabs then? Because the madhab scholars are much greater than Albani. Right, so let's move on to right, what else? Dawa Man doesn't want a woman on top. Dawa Man, I know. Dawa Man, if you ever watch this, don't worry. If you need a heart to heart, I'm here, yeah. You phone me, we'll have a. Now people must be crapping it like that. Molana Shakib from Australia phoned me when he's gonna probably. But you know what? I'm not gonna conceal this kind of stuff. My stance on this is very, even like on my Discord as well. I said it. People were discussing. I said, look, please don't. These kind of things. Don't discuss them like that. Underage marriages are not a discussion. these things, we're not going to, we're discussing it academically. No. You understand? I mean, there's certain things that can be discussed. I get that. Like, like people vary. What is an age of consent? Not like this, but like, whether it's 15 in some countries. This is what that Imam said to me as well. He said, well, in some countries it's 14, 15, in some countries 16. I said, yeah, there's a big difference between that and an 8-year-old. Like I was like, my chacha, please don't discuss this stuff with me. And he said to me that, well, in that case, he said, look, why didn't the mushrikeen of Quraysh mock the Prophet then? Why didn't the people, the Romans and the other people in the time of the Prophet, mock the Prophet for marrying a 9-year-old then? I said, that's because it never happened. I was like, Abhi chache, it never happened. That's why they never commented. This was made up much later in the Abbasid era. At that time, the people it was made up amongst were already Muslim. So, yeah. Right, so... Alright. Mufti is... that is only his British accent. Okay, I missed the PowerPoint sounds. She wasn't 9, exactly. Okay, people, let's move on. So what we're going to take a look at now is the beloveds, the beloveds. Why I say no, what is it? What did he say? Wow, bloody hell! Why I say that? Why I say this? That just sounds so naff. Why I say this is okay. Let's take a look at these people. Un momentico. Where do I have it? We've got here. I believe it's here.
So if somebody were to say, how can we believe these
Boris Johnson be top yara kasme, the vaccine makes your ding dong. But what if he makes you get the vaccine, yara?
That's it,
My
yara.
daddy can make me get the vaccine.
So if somebody were to say, how can we believe these ahadith?
Oh no, that's obviously clearly not the one. That's the vaccine, any yara. Let me find the. You know what it is? Because I get so caught up in my thing. I'm like, where the hell did I put the clip? Let me see here. This is obviously. No. Oh, I am Salafi. I am Salafi. No, you're not Salafi.
Not a single Deobandi that will not accept Maulana Thanwi's writings. Yes or no?
Right, so, no. Yeah, I need to get the clip. Where is the clip, man? Where is this one, man? What is this one? Is it over here? Oh, here it is.
Yes. A lot more serious, a lot more dangerous.
This is a lot more serious.
You see the
serious.
the Dajjal, yeah, and the Dajjals, how they operate is.
I'm the Dajjal.
So basically, for him, he needs to update his aqidah. Yeah, obviously his updated
He'll take
aqidah
him
is.
He'll take him
No, that's fine. You can update your aqidah. When the Dajjal comes, then he's your update. Your rhetoric is same as the pagans of. I mentioned this morning.
Maliki. Oh, mera pair Maliki. Mera pair. My foot Maliki, you Maliki. To be daft.
Yeah.
He's calling himself a Maliki.
But
You know, if you make names of Faram, we'll put them on our passports.
Yeah. Told this from Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Qadiani. We haven't even got to the hot topics yet and how they were all time wasters, how there were people who were similar to the Hindus, storytellers,
villages.
Yeah.
Century of Islam, where you have 124,000 Sahaba radiallahu anhum, 36 companions.
So this is their thing was, these are obviously just some key moments from their from their passionate message to me.
36 companions have narrated the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in regards to this. But I'm not going to go into the companions. I'm going to who studied by the companions. Moving on, you've got Hassan al-Bisri, rahimahullah.
Who? Who? Hasan al-Basri. No, yaar. Hasan al-Bisri. Okay, okay, Bisri, yaar. Aja, yaar. Yaar, aja, yaar. So,
an individual who grew up in the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's house. Different
acha.
tafsirs of Hasan al-Bisri rahimahullah. Hasan al-Bisri rahimahullah. Hasan.
Okay, we have to behave, people. Behave. This is the problem. We got. We're not taking it serious, you know. Oh, we know that the Jal's going to come.
Bisri rahimahullah.
Was influenced by Bollywood himself. You know the names he comes out with, man. It looks like he just sits there day and night just watching Bollywood.
Just watching Bollywood.
Yeah, because I know Mr. Dajjal what he's going to come out with. You know, Zindiq.
What are you trying to say about people?
This Zindiq's objective is to undermine the history of Islam.
Yes.
When the clown.
You know what's funny is that they actually have like a eureka moment. It's like, you know what it is? His mission is to undermine Islam. And the other guy's like, yeah. This is where we're at, this caliber, people, this caliber. So,
of Birmingham to come
Ayo Sita Gita.
out and to understand God's laws. Okay? Zindiq of Birmingham, right? The one who just sits there every Monday waffling talking a load of rubbish.
Rubbish.
Going to be superhero. The way you
Why I say this is let's go on. Let's go.
You act like you're some superhero. I mean, look at his dress. Look at the way he dresses as if he's some sort of superhero, as if he's going to have a fight.
He's filled himself with steroids. He's filled himself with steroids, yaar. And he's talking about them not acting like superheroes. How have you, Ghamdi, that drunkard, what's his name? Ghulam Ahmad Qadiani?
Yeah.
I don't know why they keep banging on about this, that I'm taking everything from Ghulam Ahmad Qadiani.
Sir Sayyid Ahmad Khan.
Ghulam Ahmad Parvez.
Ghulam Ahmad Parvez.
All these references will come out against you.
What I can't understand, the second man to have come out with this was who? Was Ghulam Ahmad Qadiani.
They've beat Yasir Qadi. Yasir Qadi was saying that, look, the first person to come out with it is Muhammad Abdu. They've gone, the second person is Ghulam Ahmad Qadiani.
That against the Quran.
No, another point. He's claiming that by doing this, he's saving people from leaving Islam.
Yeah.
Sure.
Was Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayhi saved, hundreds and thousands and if not millions of people. How many atheists did he debate? Yeah. And he's saying this.
Yeah, he's done one or two smelly little debates, and he thinks, isne sare Musliman ko, sare kufar, atheists, he's made them all Muslims. One or two smelly little Trumpy debates you've done.
Trumpy.
One or two guys have commented on your videos. Thank you very much. We've come back to Islam, and he's gone on a high horse, making it seem as
probably staged.
Staged.
Damn, they're onto me. Staged.
Forget that. We don't believe you. Jude.
We understood that part, and Mufti.
Mufti. Mato Mufti.
One thing Maulvi Halim Saab started doing, repeatedly, he keeps bringing up his foot and his toe. Abhi ye games kaun se yaar? I didn't realize that, Maulvi Halim, big toe, that Big Toe was into these kind of games. The Qari Saab, they teaching you the so I think there's a little bit too much, this one. You got I honestly, I don't know what's going on. We gotta get back to Maulvi Halim Big Toe. Okay, I'm Big Toe. Oh, I'm Big Toe. My foot, my toe. You biggie big toe. You're doing it, man. You're doing it. Let's go back to Maulvi Big Toe. Right, what's he saying? You big toe Halim. Can't mess with him, you know.
Maulana,
My toe Mufti.
Maulana,
You know something? You know what? I'll tell you what, people. I'll tell you what. I think Maulvi Halim Big Toe is trying to, I think he's struggling with some kind of fetish, you know. I tell you what, I'm gonna buy. I'm thinking. What do you think of this suggestion? We should buy Maulvi Halim Big Toe an anklet. And maybe a toe ring to go with it. Because what's this constant? I don't know what games these are. Yaar. Ho sakta hai. You know, it could be, these are, I didn't realize all along that there were certain signals he's trying to send out to people. Right there. Let's go.
you're not worthy of that. That is discussed between Muslims.
Oh.
Yeah?
I think something's happened to him. मैं समझता हूँ कि, like, you know what I'm saying? I think he's emotionally disturbed.
Disturbed,
man.
I'll tell you why we're emotionally disturbed. We've been emotionally disturbed after seeing this. Look. Oh. What the hell is that? You Halim Big Toe. You're doing it, Maulvi Halim. You're doing it, yaar. I swear. He's doing it. Let's you know what? I'm gonna buy Biggie Toe. Do you wear gold? Would you like it in gold? I'm gonna get you. This is from me to you, yeah. As a yeah. For you, I'm gonna buy you a toe ring. And for Maulvi Usman, why I'm saying this is I'm gonna pay for your visa application. How do you look at the love bouncing back, people? The love.
He's trying to say that he is Maulana. He's there full of steroids, yeah. That's what he does. He probably knocks a back like Swiss or something. That's why he's that big. But even the size, that don't make a difference to him. He's one Japan.
Oh, is he toe tickling our ego here? Yeah, Maulvi Halim.
I'm telling you one thing right now. He just acts big. I'm telling you. Tell him come to Bradford. We'll sort him out.
You come to Bradford. Come to Bradford. Ask for Halim Big Toe. That's fair. Don't sort me out with that toe. Oh wait a minute. In the madrasa, Halim, was that you? Was that you in the showers? In the cubicles, we could see that toe. Oh damn! Right there. Let's go back. Right. Let me play that.
Your Islam is what the Islam of
Come down,
the
Nini.
imposters
I'm
is.
hard in Bradford, Nini.
Kufr.
I'm hard.
They call
Yeah,
Islam
he's
kufr,
a
kufr Islam.
murid of Ghulam Ahmad Qadiani. Yeah.
Carry on, Maulana.
Anyway, Abu Layth.
So Abu Layth, right? So you can see that there, people. That right there.
तुम्हारे ये इशारे हम तो दीवाने हैं तुम्हारे तुम्हारे ये इशारे
You big toe. You're doing it, man. You're doing it.
दीवाने हैं
I knew I recognized Halim, Maulvi Halim. I knew I recognized, seriously, I recognized him. I was like, you know when he said bouncer at a club? It's just, I couldn't quite recognize him without his heels on. Yeah, people, look, so. God, you know what? It would be easier to just accept the second coming. I accept the job's gonna come. I'm gonna need like some kind of convulsion therapy. Like I'm gonna need like to get this out of my. I actually went there. This is a massaging thing. Let me just un momentico. People are colorful. Right, so this is why, you see. Come to Bradford, any? I'm the big toe, Halim big toe. Can't say it. Yo. When size matters. When you're big, but just in the toe. So imagine, look at the irony though. You know, when you think about it, that you've that what your life, you can kind of sum up life with it, to epitomize everything. That look, you are big. Like, you know, in life you've achieved. This is what it amounts to. It's big, but ultimately you're just a toe. Right. So I Maulvi Halim. Halim big toe. So okay, yeah, anklet and toe ring. Okay, I'm gonna buy it for you, huh? I didn't realize that you were into some kind of sick Maulvi fetish. You know, you're playing your little games. And, yeah, is this what you were trying to do? Come to Bradford, innit? I'm the hard guy, innit? We'll knock you out, innit? You're biggie big toe. Biggie big toe. So, let's right, let's get back to, let's focus, people. Let's focus, right? So, I want to show you that Halim, big toe. What are you doing here? Huh? Is that you though, BT? Huh? You know, now I'm gonna have nightmares. I'm gonna be like, duh, 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 duh. Yeah. It's doing it though, you know. I think, you know what? I think you guys are just haters. Maulvi Halim big toe is doing it. Trust me. This guy's doing it. He's doing it. But speaking about Maulvis, let's focus, people. Focus. So, right. This all, you see some of the claims that were being made that, look, the claims that I'm basically taking this from Mirza Qadiani, and this is who I'm a follower of, and stuff like that. So, in light of that, people, let's take a look, man. Let's take a look. So, let me just bring this up. Where is it? Just shut it. Right. Yep, that's it. I think, no, let's take a step forward. Let's put our best toe forward, guys. Let's move toward a more positive outcome. The Dajjals, huh? The Dajjals are doing it, man. Why I'm saying this? Right. Right. Mufti, can you hold that thing up again? I need to close. It's the toe, people, the toe. Right, no, people, let's focus. You know what? We're getting distracted. So, I'm getting distracted, yeah. Obviously, it's a distracting feature, though. You can imagine. You can imagine Mulvi Big Toes. His toe is quite distracting. So, but you know what? That goes to show from my side the brotherly love, the agave, the brotherly love. So I'm going to gift him. Guys, if you can think of a toe ring that would look good, you can send your suggestions, right? And then Molvi, Halim, Big Toe, if you watch this, and if you've got any preferences, just tell us, yaar. We'll just go for your preferences. If there's a particular nail varnish or nail polish that you like. Wait, was that you in the shower cubicles? Huh? Was that you? Huh? Black nail polish. Right, so people, right, we're getting distracted. Right, so I wanted to highlight here. So the Deobandi founding fathers. Why? Because look, he's saying us about Mirza Qadiani. This is who the influence is coming from. Now, check this out. You've got, these are the founding, some of the three kind of figureheads. You've got Maulana Qasim Nanotwi, Maulana Rashid Ahmad Gangoi, Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanvi. Okay, these are them. Now, Qasim Nanotwi Saab, did you know that Qasim Nanotwi Saab denied the conclusivity of the Prophet being the final Prophet? He said that it wasn't actually necessary for
Deobandi that will not accept Maulana Thanvi's writings. Yes or no?
Look, once again, this is what I'm showing here is this is Mirza Engineer. And by the way, those of you that don't know, Mirza Engineer, Muhammad Ali Engineer, he recently, just as in I think just the last 2 days or so, had another attempt on his life. See, this is the mentality, people. You know, these people are not an intellectual people. You know, it's like, this is the Mulvi mob mentality, right? That they've, in Pakistan, because Mirza Muhammad Ali Engineer is a bit neutral and he critiques people, second attempt on his life. Because they're not cut out. These people are like the Sunshine Group. It's like our beloved Mulvis here, Halim Big Toe and Usman Visa Services. They are these people, like if obviously these bichare never went to a normal school. They just went to madrasa all their lives. But had have they gone to a normal school, they would have been in the Sunshine Group. I mean, I'm just being honest. I'm not trying to be raw, but they would be in the bottom set. Like whilst the top set would be speaking about philosophy and the ontology of reality, and these people would be like kind of coloring in. Does brown go with the color blue? Does it go with that? And these guys have ended up becoming like taking the mimbars, sitting on the mimbars and preaching to people. This is the problem. These people are literally Like, they're absolute, like, rural kind of mindset. Like, you could just put them in a village in Pakistan or something, and that's where, and that to a remote village. Most villages in Pakistan would be more advanced than, but some rural, very remote villages they could fit in. Okay, coming back to here, Maulana Qasim Nanotwi, founding father of Deoband, here Mirza Muhammad Ali Engineer is explaining that, look, in his book Tahdhirun Nas, he highlights this issue that does the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam have to be the final prophet? And he says that, look, Nanotvi Saab says that no, that's not true. There can be other prophets after him, but he's like the splendor that, they can't overrule his Sharia, and Islam is the final Islam, but there can be other prophets. And you'll see that it's actually this fatwa that Maulana, they keep quoting Ghulam Ahmad Qadiani, his son, Mirza Tahir Qadiani, used in court to defend the case that Qadianis are Muslim. He actually used Qasim Nanotvi's because he said that, look, if we're kafir, then Deobandis are kafir. And you can see that here. And this is in print. This is not like some... And this is why Maulana Ahmad Raza Khan Brelvi Saab, he declared them a kafir, and all the scholars in his Husam al-Haramain was based on this fatwa. So you can see here, look, right, so just bringing that back, this is his book, Tahdhirun Nas. And these are the pages. And he's citing here that if, hypothetically, after the Prophet's time, even if a prophet is born after the Prophet, he said, we'll still call the Prophet the seal of the prophets, even though another prophet is born. And notice that he uses like is born or comes. He's not talking about Jesus. He's talking about another prophet. वो कहते हैं हुजूर सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम के बाद भी अगर कोई नबी आ जाए तो आप फिर भी खातमुन नबिय्यीन ही रहेंगे. So because he's saying that Khatamun Nabiyyin doesn't mean the last prophet, it means the seal as in the splendor of prophethood. Khatamun Nabiyyin का ये मतलब नहीं है कि आपके पास कोई नबी नहीं आएगा. तो फिर गुलाम अहमद कादियानी ने जो दावा किया और उसके See, like he's citing here that this is exactly what Mirza Qadiani said as well. This is exactly what Mirza Qadiani said, what Qasim Nanotvi Saab said here. बेटे मिर्जा ताहिर ने भी यही अदालत के अंदर ये कासिम नोतवी की इबारत ही पेश की थी. See, like he shows that it was in court he presented his actual text as evidence. और उसके बेटे मिर्जा ताहिर ने भी यही अदालत के अंदर ये कासिम नोतवी की इबारत ही पेश की थी. वो तो अल्लाह ताला गलतियां माफ करे शाह अहमद नूरानी साहब की. उन्होंने कहा कि हमारे उलमा तो पहले ये भी इस्लामुल अरमैन में इस पे भी कुफर का फतवा था अहमद बरेलवी साहब का. उनका जी तो हम तो पहले इसको कुफरिया कह चुके हैं. He said that in court, the other ulama who were Ahl Hadith or Brelvi or things like that, they said, well, we've already rejected this book of his and we've actually deemed it kufri by our standards. So that's why it's not an evidence. हम इस बात को नहीं मानते. तो उन्होंने कहा कि फिर अगर आज हम काफिर करार होते हैं यहाँ पे तो देवबंदियों को भी काफिर कराते हैं. See, like the Qadiani said that basically to the courts, if you want to call us kafir, then Deobandis also believe this. कहा कि फिर अगर आज हम काफिर करार होते हैं यहाँ पे तो देवबंदियों को भी काफिर कराते हैं. ना होंगे जब तक कि हाथ देवबंदी ये कहना दे कि मेरा अकीदा है. इसमें मेरा मसला नंबर 40 के नाम से है खत्म नबूवत के ऊपर मैंने डिटेल के साथ अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह. Then he explains, he has a whole lecture on this. लिहाजा खातमियत में फर्क आएगा. ये ऐसा अकीदा रखना कुफरी अकीदा है. Now he's obviously highlighting that he disagrees with what Qasim Nanotwi Sahib has said there. So just to highlight that, look, you've got, so this is Maulana Qasim Nanotwi. The irony, why am I saying this? The irony is that they are accusing, Biggie Big Toe, Halim Big Toe, and other Deobandis. What's funny is often Deobandis. You had people like, in the past, beloved Sheikh Asrar, very challenging on this issue as well. but never saying, it's funny that you see, people like that, even though they challenge and say this is misguidance, this, blah, 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 but he not saying that, okay, this is an Iman Kufr issue, and not saying that anything dumb like, oh, you're taking this from Qadianis. It's often Deobandis, unfortunately, and this doesn't mean it's all Deobandis that say this, I'm not saying that, but unfortunately, it is a certain amount of them that they use this tactic in saying, well, it's that you guys are taking this from Ghulam Qadiani, when actually it's their scholars who have done that. Now I'm just bringing that up again. We've got here. So, right. So here. Now I just mentioned that he denied the conclusivity. Like he said that the Prophet is the last major prophet, but other prophets could be born. I highlight that. It was cited as evidence. Okay. Now, just to show you, whilst we're discussing this, concerns, people are saying, look, what Mufti is spreading is a concern. Mufti is saying that Jesus won't come back. This is a big concern. Mufti is saying miracles can have natural causes. They don't have to, it doesn't have to be something almost mythological. It can have natural cause. This is a big concern. Let's take a look at some of their own very founding fathers. Right? You've seen what Qasim Nanotwi Saab has said. Let's move on to, we're going to take a look at the founding fathers. You've got, this is Maulana Rashid Ahmad Gangohi. Now check this out. This is in his book, Irshadat Gangohi. And it's mentioned in another book as well. He's citing the biography of his own teacher, Zamin Jalalabadi, who used to have, and these are his words, by the way, he used to have a lot of murids, like followers, and a lot of them were whores. That's the word he uses. You're going to see that, randiyan, right? They were actual prostitutes, basically. He's not just calling women. So they were actual prostitutes. So he cites the example. He says that, look, that you can see, he cites the example of one time, this great of the, the Pir Sahib of the founding father, he went to one of his gatherings where normally these prostitute muridat turn up, and one of them hadn't come. So he asked, where is she? So she comes one of the days, and he says to her, oh, you weren't here when we were doing this. And she's shy because she was obviously working, and what her work is. So he says to her, look, why are you being shy? And they've got the text here. He says, B, he calls her B. He says, Sharmati kyun ho? Why are you being shy? Karne wala aur karwane wala to wahi hai. Astaghfirullah. He says that, why are you being shy? The one doing it and the one making this all happen is ultimately one, meaning it's God. So she gets so annoyed that she actually says that she says, aise peer, this kind of a peer saab, uske muh par bhi peshab mein nahi karungi. It's like peshab nahi karti. That I wouldn't even urinate in the face of such a. How dare he say that God is ultimately behind this stuff? This is obviously ties into that aqidah. Now, I'm just giving you an idea of the issues, and it's just, these are just some issues of the mindset. Okay, and we're going to come to some more concerning points, but this is obviously a little entertainment, right? So upon one occasion, the former Maulana Qasim Nanotwi Saab, and you've got Maulana Rashid Ahmad Gangohi, whose Pir Saab was also, you've heard, explaining the fine arts, the divine works behind prostitution. You've got here this one incident where one time they were walking, and they were going somewhere, and they're tired now. So they come to a charpai. A charpai, the desi kind of small single kind of bed. So Maulana Rashid Ahmad Gangohi says to him, look, I'll tell you what, let's lie down. Let's both of us lie on this bed. So they both lie. Obviously, it's a very tight space, isn't it? So they're both lying there. So what happens whilst he's lying there? It mentions like he puts his his hand on. He gets the other. I believe it's Qasim Nanotvi's hand, and he says, "Let me just read it here." And he says, and he says, "Put it on my heart whilst we're both lying together on this charpai." But this obviously in a reasonably public place. So Maulana says to him, he says, "Maulana Sahab, log kya kahenge?" Maulana Sahab, log kya ahsan? It's like, log kya kahenge? What will people say? And he says, "Yaar, let people say what they're going to say." What this one? This one, pure love. This one, pure, yaar, pure. This is your charpai. That's a charpai, people. I'm just trying to show you a charpai. But chalo, that's to. We digress. Let's move on. That's just a little jovial, light-hearted people, brotherly love. This one. Biggie Big Toe. What Biggie Big Toe was trying to show us as well. Look, I want to come to their disciple, Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi Sahib. And he's one of the academic founding fathers. So the earlier two, who are the actual founding fathers, they have written stuff, but really the prolific writer and whose teachings are really kind of like, infused into the school is Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi Sahib. Now, I want to show you something here. Here, Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi, and these are books that we have still here. They're still in print. They're online. They're in bookstores. They're being taught in many Deobandi places. Now, you can see here that, keep going back to Biggie Big Toe. You see, magic recipes. Now, I know that sounds so dumb, but just to give you an idea, this is a verse of the Quran that you can see. يُحِبُّهُمْ وَيُحِبُّونَ أَذِلَّةٍ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَعِزَّةٍ عَلَى الْكَافِرِينَ. What Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi says, rather than me explaining it to you people, why not get... let me just close this, sorry. I thought, why not get another beloved to explain it?
Not a single Deobandi that will not accept Maulana Thanwi's writings. Yes or no? Allama Thanwi, Sheikh Thanwi, Maulana Thanwi, whatever you want to call him, he was one of the greatest scholars of the Deobandi legacy.
Many people from amongst the scholars and the pious
have regarded him
as to have been the
Mujaddid
of the 14th century. Even by looking at Hazrat Thanwi Rahmatullah alayhi, he had such a lovable personality. When he would go anywhere, people would flock and just to see him and have a glimpse of him.
Ashraf Ali Thanwi, as we have seen, is a man who is universally accepted by the Deobandis. We assign and associate with the Deobandis, not knowing what they're truly upon.
Now,
not
this
knowing
is
what the founders
obviously
were truly
Abu
upon.
Ibrahim using his angle,
but Ali Thanwi teaches in his book A'mali Qur'ani. On page
just
number 21,
so you don't think, well, I'm the only person saying this.
He teaches you how to separate two people, be that between a husband and his wife, be that a mother and her daughter, or a father and his daughter or son, etc. Or be Ashraf Ali Thanwi, he teaches you how to cause separation between two people. And I am quoting,
look at the procedure.
He says, if you desire to separate and put hatred between two people,
obviously
write
this
this
is nonsense.
verse on a stone or on a rock, and then bury this rock between two old graves. Bury this stone between two old graves and write make this picture that we're going to see in the scan later. He says, may the separation occur between fulan and fulan. So he says, write an ayah of the Quran on a stone. And underneath the ayah, write, may the separation occur between so and so,
now,
and their names.
I'll show you
make
just
a
that.
ta'weed and bury it between two old graves. Bury it between two
graves.
old graves. Subhanallah.
So this is...
Take a stone. Write an ayah of the Quran on this stone. And the ayah is mentioned in the scan, and you can clearly see the ayah of the Quran. Write an ayah from the Quran on this stone.
And this is
then write, may the separation occur between person A and person B. And then make a ta'weed, and then bury it into or between two old graves.
So he's showing that, but you can see it right here. I've got it. This is in his book, and there are the verses right there. You can see that. Now, he's got that, and he's actually writing, look, adawat o tafriq ke liye, to create enmity and separation. He does say, oh, it's hard, don't do it between, only do it to people who deserve it. Your wizardry. Obviously, this stuff is nonsense. Magic doesn't happen, but look at what he's teaching. This is just the starting. This is not even the worst of it. But look at how his attitude towards the Quran. That you're getting this is some kind of magic book to cause magic. You bury it amongst what? Amongst graves. Yeah, this is his attitude. But nobody will criticize this. I mean, no Deobandi would ever criticize it. But this is not the problem. If this was the only problem, we'd stop. Magic recipes, if it was just that, right? Fine. Okay, Biggie Big Toe is at it. But you see, the problem only gets worse, people. Wallahi. There is a book, Beheshti Zevar, written by Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi, found in most Islamic bookstores that are Deobandi affiliated, taught to girls. This book was designed as a gift for young girls who can read, or women, especially, into early womanhood and stuff like this. It was actually, in fact, Ashraf Ali Thanwi says that women should just learn this, then they don't need to learn how to read anything beyond that. This is for them. Beheshti, heavenly Zevar ornaments. A very popular book. Okay, let's take a look. Now, this is one of the key. Now, this is shocking to its core. Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi speaks in this book about marrying, he's not speaking about just marrying. He's speaking about having sex with girls who are underage. He uses the word have not reached puberty. He then goes on to highlight that he says that obviously the man is going to do ghusl after he's raped her, obviously, because she's an underage, non-pubescent girl. He says that even though ghusl isn't wajib on the girl, but you should always make her do a ghusl after being raped, because you should get her accustomed to the ghusl, to the ritual bath. This is, I'm going to show you this from his actual book in a moment, right? So this is not me he says that, and we know himself, he married a 10-year-old as well, which I covered last week. This is the same Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi, okay, in his book Beheshti Zevar, saying this. Apart from the other stuff, like you should beat up women if they do this, okay, don't excessively beat them, but beat them up, lock them up, she can't leave the house without your permission, all of this, and you can see that right there. So just to un momentico, right?
Not a single Deobandi that will not accept Maulana Thanwi's writings. Yes or no? Allama Thanvi, Sheikh Thanvi, Maulana Thanvi, whatever you want to call him. There's not a single Deobandi that will not accept Maulana Thanvi's writings. Yes or no? Allama Thanvi, Sheikh Thanvi, Maulana Thanvi, whatever you want to call him.
See, this is
he was one of the greatest scholars of the Deobandi legacy.
Many people from amongst the scholars and the pious have regarded him as to have been the mujaddid of the
He was the reviver of this entire
14th century. Even by looking at Raza Thanvi rahmatullah alayhi, he had such a lovable personality. When he would go anywhere, people would flock and just to see him and have a glimpse of him.
So that's, now I'm going to show you here. Right now. Okay, so this is just to show you that. One moment. Right, I'll just wait for this to. Bloody hell. All right, there it is. Look here. This is his book. You can hear that. Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanvi. See, he's giving you the page number. He says if a man has had sex with a girl who is not yet she's not yet jawan, she hasn't reached puberty. He says ghusl isn't wajib, but adat dalne ke liye, in order to make her accustomed to the ritual bath, you should make her take a shower as well afterwards. And this book is written for girls, by the way. It's not written for boys. This book is written for girls. You know,
there's not a single Deobandi that will not accept Maulana Thanvi's writings. Yes or no? Allama Thanvi, Sheikh Thanvi, Maulana Thanvi, whatever you want to call him, he was one of the greatest scholars of the Deobandi legacy.
This is the problem, people. You know, somebody said a moment ago, somebody asked that, why do these, you know, that when I spoke about the Australian Deobandi Imam, why do these people, Maulana Shakib, why do they justify, why do they try to defend underage marriages? It's been so normalized to them, so normalized, that they think like, well, okay, people don't do it today, but what's the big deal? And it shocks me, honestly, how widespread this nonsense is. Not a single Deobandi Imam will condemn this. You know, I would love to see, you know, recently, Mufti Taqi spoke out against Khatm Bukhari. He said, oh, this might become a bid'ah. He condemned it. Yeah, it became a bit of a hoo-ha. Will he ever condemn this? No. Will any of these Deobandi Shuyukh, Mashayikh, Limbada Saab, these two, Bud, what are they, Sita Gita, any of the, will they ever call out this rape for what it is? No. They will continue, wallahi, in the UK, this book is being taught in the maktabs, you know, where they have like Islam class or whatever. It's not like a developed madrasa, but in the mosque where they teach Islam to girls, they teach this book. Most Deobandi girls who have been brought up in this country will own a copy of this book. Did you know that? Most of them. And Deobandis are only a practicing group, so you don't get lay Deobandi like the way you get lay Brelvis, because common Muslims by default are Brelvi. It's only the religious kind that actively choose to be Deobandi. So you, by default, you're not just going to be Deobandi. So Deobandi are usually a practicing crowd. So in their households, they will have Beheshti Zevar. This is in that. This nonsense. Trying to say, well, you should, you should inculcate the habit in this little 10-year-old after you forced yourself on her to take a ritual bath because, ghusl, and even though it's not wajib, but adat dalne ke liye. Yaar, you should have a habit. This is being taught here in the UK. Well, you see, now you may say, well, in some of these places, they don't teach that chapter or paragraph. That is unacceptable. Wallahi, these books need to be burnt. Okay? It's utterly unacceptable. It is a betrayal to Allah and His Messenger that this kind of bullshit can be passed in the name of Islam. Utterly unacceptable. Anybody who is promoting that book, two things. Wallahi. One, okay, they should be educated. Because maybe people don't know. Some people don't know this is in there. They probably don't read it so thoroughly. It's not a big book, but they probably haven't read it all so attentively. So I would say at first they should be educated, okay, made aware and told, highlighted. Maybe, because I don't believe most Deobandis would agree with this. But they're just going to be too chicken shit to be able to call it out for the nonce pedophilic kind of behavior that it is. They just won't be able to call it out. But I don't think most of them would agree with it. So they need to be educated and informed. Or if they are educated and informed and don't care, then wallahi, they need to be arrested. These people cannot be in positions of trust. Educating little girls. Teaching them this kind of nonsense that this is what little should be done with little girls, make them grow a habit of how to take a ghusl shar'i, a ritual bath after being raped. Wallahi, this, I tell you something, this is the biggest betrayal, the khiyana, the biggest akbaru khiyana to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I say this because wallahi, you've got no idea how common this book is. You're going to think that, oh, Mufti is just going on, this book, nobody's even got this book. You'll be shocked how common this book is. This is commonplace, Beheshti Zevar. And they're going to say, yeah, but our ulama said, yaar, you don't need to go by Beheshti Zevar. Koi baat nahi, yaar, koi isme chand baatein se likhi hui hain. You don't need to. No, condemn. You have to change that attitude. It can't be just, yaar, we're going to cover up for him. Stop covering up. This is wrong. It is rape. It is a child. And you're normalizing this kind of bullshit. So you need to stop and you need to call it out. And I accept that many people don't know about it. You need to educate them. And those who do know about it, they can't play it down. This kind of like, yaar, he lived in 1920. Koi baat nahi. Theek hai. He's buried, isn't he? Bury the book. You're teaching people to bury the Quran. You're saying to people, bury the Quran. You can't bury his book. Did his book come down min as-samawati as-sab'? You're saying to people to cause enmity, bury in a graveyard. Take his book and bury it. This is the stuff that these people don't speak about. This is why Islam is being maligned the way it is. And you think I'm just making this up. You will see. Look, watch. I will show you. You think that, Mufti, some people might say, Mufti is just making a song and a dance about this. This, apart from it being the tragedy that it is, that people are normalizing.
I am Salafi, and I don't care what anyone says. I'm Salafi.
I'm so close to just, on this I don't swear. And I'm just losing it because I don't
Huh? I am Salafi.
Right. Now, I'm going to show you here, right? Because you guys would think that, look, Mufti is just saying this. People are not onto this already. This has already been reported in the news. You're going to see, okay, they've reported other aspects of it. They haven't caught on to everything yet, but it's only a matter of time. Look at this. Look at that. This is in the Toronto Sun. This is in the papers years ago. Book tells Muslim men how to beat and control their wives. It is necessary to restrain her with strength, even if it's to threaten her. Now, he goes on to say she cannot leave his house without his permission. She must fulfill his desires. A woman has no right to refuse under any circumstances unless it's near death sex. This has already been picked up by tabloids. This is not me just saying something that these people have not. And you know, these people are, many of them sometimes are Islamophobic. They are looking for these kind of excuses. And this is the kind of filth that obviously Muslims, some Muslims, are unfortunately spreading. Look, see, it says here, he says that how he should, that's the book, and that's a picture apparently of, I don't know, that's the picture people give of Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanvi, you know, the Godhead. And this is, you know, apart from, now are you surprised when I said last week that he married a what was approximately a 10-year-old? Now, you see, advising how to beat her, you should beat by hand or stick. You should withhold money from her. These are the things that... Right, okay, now that's something a bit... Now, the reason I'm highlighting this is because, look, are these not concerns? Or is the big concern, you know, these Deobandi Imams all, you know, we've got so much time. Karo yaar, you know, you want to, I don't mind. You do it. You know, you're just promoting me. I have a Deobandi Imam contacting me from Australia. Usko takleef ho rahi hai. You know, he's calling me and then justifying on the conversation underage marriages. Is this not a bigger problem? Or is it that Mufti explains miracles through natural means? Is that such a big calamity for you? Oh, it's such a big fitna. You know, Mufti, you've become you're a Dajjal. Yet Dajjal nahi nazar aa raha hai. Doing all this kind of nonsense in the name of Allah and His Prophet. This is why Allah and His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam have such a amongst people. This is why. Now, the tabloids have already picked up on this stuff. I don't know, maybe they haven't picked up on this particular part, but they've picked up on the wife beating, control her, hold back her money. This is the kind of stuff. You know, ask around. Speak to Deobandi girls that have been brought up in Deobandi households. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Girls that have been brought up in Deobandi household. And this is why many of those girls who are brought up in Deobandi households struggle then with their faith. Because look, normal Muslims, and I have to highlight this again, regular practicing, okay, let's take the Desi world, Indo-Pak world, and Bangladesh. Now, these countries, regular Muslims, that means Muslim by name, Muslim by culture, are Brelvi. They're not part of these institutions. So your regular Muslims won't have had these kind of books. The practicing people, so to be a Deobandi is an active choice. It's like a bit like how you have Protestants or Seventh-day Adventists, or you know, you're gonna have Methodists, or you're gonna have... these people are usually active choices. You're not just a lay Deobandi or a lay al-Hadith. It doesn't happen like that. These are practicing circles. In these circles, when girls are there, so they're raised in these homes, a lot of them, this is why they struggle with their iman. They're being fed this kind of filth. And then these people are like almost like prophets. Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanvi Sahab, he's the greatest man who ever lived. He's the, like Maulana, they were saying, just to see him is an act of ibadah. It's, it's so wonderful if you could just see him, let alone be in his company or his books. He's one of the greatest. This is, and I'm not saying, people are going to say he wrote books on this and that as well. Okay. But does it justify this? Somebody wrote a comment. They said, Mufti, come on. I expected better from you than to highlight these things about, the Deobandi elders. Why don't you just keep it with these two? Why are you speaking about it? Are these not concerns? Does this not concern you? If your daughter tomorrow had to be told this kind of stuff, or if she was with somebody exploiting her like this, are these other little girls that has happened to, are they not people's daughters? Or is it only your problem when it happens to you? This is the problem. You don't feel what is going on with other people. It's only, if it happens to my family, then it's a problem. No, it's a problem now. The fact that this man, less than 100 years ago, took a bride that was like only 10 and justified it because of some dream about the mother of the believers coming to his house speaks volumes. So we need to prioritize, get our stuff in order, man. We need to. Honestly, it riles me, this stuff does. Look, yeah, and just to show you some other nonsensical stuff. Whilst Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanvi Sahib is on a roll with wizardry, look at the other things he presents. Look at this. This is Maulana Sahib on a roll. Penis enlargement. And you're not going to believe how the penis is enlarged. I mean, you couldn't make this stuff up. Wallahi, this is in his book. You go to a graveyard. Abbe mere chache. What is this fixation with graveyards? Everything, go to a graveyard. What should we do with the Quran? Put it in the graveyard. I know, I need my penis enlarged. Okay, what shall I do? TK, I'm in the graveyard. What now? Bring back 7 big ants. 7 big ants. Kill them one by one. Oh, Maulana Sahab. Kasme. Let's go on. What else? What should I do? Okay, I've killed him. 1, 2, one by one. One by one, I've killed him. Next. Put them in jasmine oil in a bottle. Okay. If things were ominous enough already, what should I do? Now I've got 7 dead ants, big ants that are dead one by one in jasmine oil. What do I do next? Bury that bottle in goat's droppings for a day and night. Okay, wait there. Then what? Next day, take it out. Mix these ants properly in the oil. Rub your private parts with a thick cloth until it is reddish. Then massage this oil on it and leave it for 20 minutes. And inshallah, your... I mean, your intellect definitely ain't going to grow. Ayo Maulana Sahab, huh? Find ants. Acha, theek hai. What now? What now? Now I need to find goat droppings and I need to bury it in goat droppings. This, they call him the wise man of the Ummah, Hakimul Ummah. Abey yaar, ummat ka kya hoga yaar? Ummat ka. What's going to happen to the Ummah if this is the Hakim, this is the wise man, right? Then we're going to rub this on our penis. Ants. I'm going to rub 7 dead ants mixed with jasmine oil on my private parts. This is what for penis enlargement. Alternate to surgery. Cha, cha, cha. Yeah, but one thing though, he had concern for the Ummah. Enlarge their penises, acha shabash, and then go and do what you do. This is, and you couldn't make this nonsense up. I mean, this is actually in his book, which is in print. So that is the actual the therapy, guys. So on the bright side, I know what guys are going to be doing after they watch this. They go, yaar, it's the 6th ant. 7th ant mil jaye, yaar. Koi. Ayo, babyo. This is the thing. Like, like I feel, on one hand, you've got, on the other hand, you've got 7 dead ants. Yeah, I honestly don't know what is going on. And this, and they say, why do you feel younger people are not interested in Islam? I mean, forget younger people, older people, nobody will be interested in it after we get a bit more wisdom like this coming our way. But this is the thing. Will anybody speak up that is from that? You see, because if a Brelvi says it, they say, oh, yeah, he's a Brelvi, he's going to hate anyway. If a Salafi says it, they're going to say, yeah, he's going to hate anyway. He's not a Muqallid. He's not. Why don't the Deobandis themselves criticize it? Just criticize. Look, at the end of the day, Allah says, that stand for justice. Qumu, shuhada, like be walau ala anfusikum, even if it's against some of you. But just stand bil qist, with justice. So yeah, people, we've gone on. I was trying to keep today a bit brief. Kaha yaar, kaha hota hai yaar. Let's wrap this up. So these ants must be some mega. I think one of those ants has made its way into a toe. Your biggie, big toe, Halim big toe. There's the ant. The ant. I think, what happened? I think he walked barefooted on those 7 dead ants. And the magnificent 7, because they rubbed onto his toe, it turned into... हम भी दीवाने हैं तुम्हारे. Yes, man. People like Shah Rukh Khan, at least they are angels compared to these Ayo limbada. Yes, man. So people, you know what? Let's wrap this up. You know what? It's been interesting. It's been an interesting evening. So guys, if you have any if you want to reach out, do so. You know the drill. If you haven't already subscribed, if you haven't subscribed already to my YouTube channel, I'm going to find those 7 ants. I'm going to DHL them. Even DHL's going to be like, yeah. Oh, what's this? You know, I'm going to need some kind of electric shock therapy to get rid of Halim Big Toe. Mulvi Halim Big Toes kind of. So I'm going to send those ants your way, people. If you haven't already subscribed, make your way to the channel, like, subscribe, spread the love, man, the fitan and fasad. Other than that, take very good care of yourselves, people. If you want to reach out to me, Instagram is good. If you want to extend your love and support, then as always, people's Patreon, man, Patreon. You can always go to Patreon. You can be a part of the Discord app, a server which has a chat group where we chat in there. There's a chat group, there's a voice channel, there's like shares, curated things I share on there. There's a learning stream, there's a Q&A channel on there called Quick Fix. So all of these things are on Discord, but it's accessed via Patreon. So people might say, huh, Mufti, you, well, at least I'm not giving recipe on on finding 7 dead ants. Sorry, not dead. You have to kill them. And then you have to kill them one by one. I love the precision. You know, you can't just kill them. Kill them one by one. You're doing it, you know. I swear, you're doing it, man. You're doing it.
Not a single Deobandi that will not accept Maulana Thanwi's writings. Yes or no?
Acha.
Allama Thanwi, Sheikh Thanwi, Maulana Thanwi, whatever you want to call him, he was one of the greatest scholars of the Deobandi legacy.
Many people from amongst the scholars and the pious have regarded him as to have been the Mujaddid of the 14th century. By looking at Raza Thanwi Rahmatullah alayhi, he had such a lovable personality. When he would go anywhere, people would flock
we know
and
about.
just to see him and have a glimpse of him.
So that was, people, let's wrap this up. That's enough love for one session. Take very good care of yourselves. Next week's session, you see, next week, Monday, might be difficult. So what I'll try and do is maybe do it on the Sunday, a bit earlier. So, yeah, cool. I'll also try and do the meetup one of the days this week, probably Wednesday or Thursday, so look out for that. Take very good care of yourselves, people. As always, much love. Gio. Spread love, man. Not this. Don't spread hatred and nonsense and things like this. And remember, the deen is your own deen. Okay, you own it. Clergy don't own it. People, over and out. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Go on then, as an exit. There you go, people.